Hello, this is Public Radio's Animation Dissection podcast, the podcast where we are planeteers and you can be one too. Because saving our planet is the thing to do, looting and polluting is not the way. Hear what Captain Planet has to say. Powerful, powerful words. So, we are Animation Dissection, and today we are talking about Captain Planet. I am Neeksy, here, of course, with Zorak,
Howdy.
and very special guest, Chorocojo.
I'm I'm new here. What's up?
So, before we go into Captain Planet, of course, we have the animation nose time. So, first thing I got down is that Sony is trying to shut down every video on Vimeo that has the word pixel in it because, pixels. What are they trying to accomplish?
I mean, it's
other than
technically
pissing off
not
everybody.
It's technically not Sony themselves. It's one of their companies, or sub things that they licensed it out to. Like, you need to go around to all the video sites and make sure nobody's stealing pixels. And then I guess whoever's running that particular effort was like, "Oh, the trailer for Pixels, that's infringing on Pixels." Well,
But also any other artist that uses pixels as a medium for animation or anything.
Yeah, just anything with the word pixels in the title, regardless of how unrelated it is, including the I believe the short that they based the film on was also taken down. Because there was like a 5-minute or like a 3-minute short that they bought the movie rights for, and they took that down, and that's funny.
Pretty good, actually.
That's a fitting and rightful end.
To the short
venture.
isn't bad because the short is
I'm not
conceptually
saying,
interesting. But
no, I mean to the campaign of taking everything off on pixels.
Sure.
That irony of taking it down is a fitting end to that campaigin of doing that.
Though Vimeo has outright said like, no, "Yo, dog, this shit's fucked up," and they've undone it all at this point. So
yeah.
Hey.
But hey, it speaks to a larger issue about things that also happens on YouTube, which is where a lot of independent artists and animators put their work up and can easily be taken down for less than good reason.
Right.
Yeah, they can.
So a thing I got is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We talked about the first 2 seasons. That is the first 3 parts a few weeks ago, and now the dub is actually available on, I believe, Amazon Video. I don't know if it's on other streaming services. Amazon Video is the one I heard about. You can go and watch it on there for money.
No, it's not on Netflix. So.
There we go. Who knows? Maybe it'll eventually be a wider rollout eventually. And the dub it's dubbed, and it's actually pretty dang good. Like, there's some pretty apropos voice acting in there, and it's pretty funny. So hey, good job on them.
Well, we're kind of living in like a golden age of good dubs lately. I mean, not everything's great, but like we've had some really good ones. Like Space Dandy's dub was really good, even though it was being done like as it was being released. So we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F is doing really well in U.S. theaters, and I'm kind of taken aback. Not necessarily that I didn't think that there were Dragon Ball Z fans that like the new movies, because the new movies are kind of weird in a fun, self-referential way. It's just that having it being in U.S. theaters and doing well is what's surprising me.
I'm sorry. Did you doubt Goku?
What are you, a monster? What, you work for Frieza now?
I bet you didn't even raise your fucking.
He
You didn't even
misses
raise your
spirit bombs a lot.
You didn't even raise your hands when he used the spirit bomb last time.
You would wait for Mr. Satan to say it, and you're like, "Oh, Mr. Satan saying it. Well, okay, I guess I'll contribute my spiritual energy. I guess." Dang hipster.
Hey man, you know what? Mr. Satan is a member of this community, and he has done far more. He is important to his neighborhood, I assume.
Goku tried to grow all those crops. Failed to grow all those crops, but he tried. Damn it!
And then he was paid by the government to not grow those crops.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how he makes his money.
No, he gets it from the Ox King. He gets all the Ox King's money.
He married a rich woman.
Married a Chinese princess. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
It's doing like 4 million or something in the first 3 days. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, no, that's kind of impressive. Hey, I would love it if maybe some more like Japanese animated movies that are like good come over here and do that, because for a while. Hey, what I'm saying, I'm saying good in that regard, as in like.
Are there many of those?
there are ones occasionally that are pretty interesting that we don't get wide release for if they're not Miyazaki. So like you got Miss Hokusai, you have Colorful, you have um oh, what's his name? Summer Wars and things like that. They don't really get theatrical releases in the
Those are
same way.
pretty rare these days, though. Like there's occasional ones. Like the ones you've said have been like 2 or 3 films in the last like 5 years, though. Like
Well,
let's be
yeah, but
honest here,
mean,
it's
but
rare
hey, at
even in
least getting some of
Japan.
the, but even getting those out at all would be kind of nice to have in our theaters,
Sure, and though
is what I'm
keep in
saying.
mind, keep in mind a lot of that has to do with there being a studio over here pushing it from the other side, and
Yes.
from this side we had Funimation pushing it, and Funimation's pretty happy with how things turn out because Funimation is very much in the Dragon Ball Z game.
They
Though,
always have been, yeah.
again, though the odd thing for that is that they're not simulcasting Dragon Ball Super. What's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know why. I've been hearing conflicting things. Some people like it and some people think it's dreadful. I have no idea what's going on with it.
I think it's pretty good. It's like Dragon Ball.
I think the best way to figure it out is how do you feel about the episode where Goku and Piccolo learn to drive cars?
I have actually not watched it yet, so I don't have any judgments to
well, that's from
make
the original
on this.
Dragon
Yeah.
Ball Z.
God.
There's Dragon Goku and Piccolo learn to
It's
drive cars.
Pretty
and
much that tone.
which is great because that original episode was just like that episode you're referring to was filler, and it's
It
great.
is in fact the best episode. Of
Somehow
Dragon Ball
it
Z.
is in fact the best episode because of how stupid it is. Just Piccolo wearing a backwards baseball cap and just like shitty clothes that he got from Goku. Ah, so good. Speaking of Dragon Ball Super, there's been a lot of talk recently, given that episode 5 aired, and the animation was really bad. In not really mentioning it just because, like, hey guys, anime had bad animation. Anime from Toei Animation had bad animation because that's not actually that surprising. That's kind of a common issue, and I don't want to dunk on the animators. And there's actually been a lot of that going on recently. Kind of like dunking on, like, oh, the animators for Dragon Ball Super sure are bad. And no, that's not really how these things sort of work. You know, there's lots of talented staff working at Toei Animation and even on the studios that they outsource and do, work with. When things like this happen, it's almost always a schedule issue or a management issue where there's just not enough time here. And the animation industry in Japan, just like in the US, has a really bad, just history of sort of pushing animators to get
Abuse.
shit done and being abusive. Toei, though,
Yeah.
is actually kind of interesting. Is that it's one of the few studios, period, not just in Japan, but period, where the animators are actually unionized.
Wow, that's actually really genuinely surprising.
It is very surprising. Like I don't know if are there any studios in the U.S. that have unionized
Yes.
animators? Are there?
Yes, we do. No, California has a union
Oh, yeah?
in LA at least.
Huh.
There's a reason some studios started setting up shop in non-LA locations was to literally avoid doing union. And but the hard
That's
part is
alright.
that while there is a union, not every studio is a union studio. So if you can get one of those union jobs, like that's great. But it's really hard to get those jobs
Sure.
because
Uh,
they're the only ones that offer benefits and actually decent pay that is kind of regulated in some way to make sure that people aren't getting fucked over for doing, they're not being paid less for doing the same work that someone else would at some other studio.
Yeah, and obviously Toei's struggling out here. One of the most interesting responses I saw to this was Thomas Romain, who you've talked about quite often on here, for doing some
Yes.
interesting stuff. He's a
He's a
Western,
background designer, yes.
yeah, who does Westerner that does stuff in Japan for anime and such. That actually posted a response to the response people are having about Dragon Ball Super on Twitter. It's definitely worth checking out just because it's kind of an interesting, like, hey, this isn't the animator's fault. It's a rough job over here, guys. Here's kind of the circumstances that lead to some of the thing, and we'll put the tweet in the show notes. And I think it's worth a look, just kind of a hey, heads up. Here's why sometimes this happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about a lack of talent, although, yes, there are cases where sometimes it is a lack of talent, but in a lot of cases, it's just really bad scheduling. Remember that episode of Paranoia Agent where the entire studio just gets like eliminated one person at a time
Yeah.
and it's left up to like the really terrible production assistant? That's kind of what happens, but without the murder part.
Well, with a lot of
Well,
this stuff,
sometimes with the murder part,
well,
but usually not.
with things like this, it's mostly more like, okay, we need you to animate this. Oh, and I don't know, 3 days. And they're like, we can't do a good job. Like, fix it up for the DVDs. That happens an awful dang lot.
That's the thing is I think the whole DVD thing has made some of these studios kind of complacent in the way they've done their scheduling.
I don't know if that's actually the case because if you look at shows of the '90s, they just didn't fix it up for the DVDs. They just did that level of stuff and then didn't bother going back.
Well, what I'm saying is though is that they now have this safety net in the
Sure.
back of their head, so they can go like, yeah, if we have like just storyboards broadcast on TV, like yeah, just fine DVD, whatever.
But yeah, but the thing is, like, I'm saying, like, they used to have this same level of production issues prior to there being DVDs, and they just wouldn't go back and fix it. They just eventually on VHS, you'd get the same shitty level of animation on VHS.
True.
They
Isn't
just didn't
that-
bother going back.
They didn't have the remastering thing.
Isn't that a thing you told me while we were doing that bot explainer thing where they didn't have the funding, so they just literally did it in black and white?
I
the
don't know
whole
if that
episode?
actually. I have to take that back for that one we were talking about. That was Gunbuster. Apparently, that was actually more expensive to animate in black and white. I didn't know. I didn't know that. Apparently, that's
All
a
right.
thing. That it's actually. Neeksy, do you have any insight on this? Is it more expensive to animate in black and white versus in color? If you have like a lot of
Well,
heavy like gradients.
I'm trying to understand what you're meaning. Isn't
Okay, the show-
What
the show-
era was this made?
80s.
Okay,
Okay, we'll get to. We're probably gonna watch this show. I think sometime in the next few months or whatever, just because it's what I
okay.
want to talk
So
about.
I'll have to take a look at it and see what the
it's-
effect
okay.
is and see why technique wise it would be difficult back then and more expensive because it could be a variety of.
I've
different
heard a lot of
reasons and issues.
contrary statements on it. Supposedly, I always heard initially that there was a cost saving thing, but I had a lot of people saying like, actually it was more expensive to do that. So I have no clue. Obviously, I have no actual animation background. I just know dumb shit about anime. So I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have
I
to
just
take it up
know
later.
shit
then.
vicariously through him. So.
Yes.
I'm getting it through a fucked up lens.
Well, speaking of fucked up, we're going to be getting Pez dispenser and emoji movies heading towards us, assaulting our senses without any justifiable reason. And there's also going to be an emoji TV series that is unrelated to the emoji movie.
Because emoji are popular.
Can it just
I'm
be
sorry,
about?
that's the big secret. It's just that
Can we
it's a
just do it
popular
about
thing.
the Tengu emoji and then the Oni emoji is like its next door neighbor? That's it. I just want the series to be that. No other emojis.
You just wanted to get it out there that there's a Tengu emoji.
Yes, I did. Ever since you revealed it to me, it has been dominating my conscious at all times. Like,
You know,
man,
my favorite fact about the Tengu emoji is if you search it on Wikipedia, it takes you to the page for Tengu.
that's
Nice.
pretty dope. It also saddens me that my phone doesn't do emoji.
I'm
There's
pretty
one
sure that
time-
everybody in the emoji community will be really upset if the main character is at least not smiling pile of poo.
Oh, there's a community.
No, I'm just making that up.
I got really sad about that. Then I changed. I got really sad about another thing.
My emoji soda is the party balloon, and also sometimes I'm the green colored heart.
Oh,
So
flexing
okay,
pizza.
what would emoji people call themselves? The
Emojis. I'm sorry, it would just be emojis.
No,
we
how about
emojis.
no? It would be emojers.
Oh, you're right. It probably will be. Or emojines.
Emojineers.
I can feel it in my emojines.
They're emojineers.
No. I
Oh,
got
God,
it.
yeah, emojin. Like the Saiyans.
No, I got even better. Bro-mojis.
All right.
I wanted to stop this
I'm
conversation
really sad now.
Yes. Well, now that we're all sad, do we have any more news left, or can we move on?
I've got a few things. I caught this on Amazon. It's a random thing like, oh, well, that's weird. Ping Pong the Animation, a show that we talked about earlier this year as being one that we like an awful lot, both of us, is on Amazon. You can buy it on Blu-ray. Hey, maybe you should do that. That's pretty good.
This show. It's so good.
Put-
And also, that's a good way of supporting more stuff being made by Masaki Yuasa.
yeah, put money in Yuasa's mouth. Do it. Feed him the bucks.
He'll eat the
Nom.
money. I've
the-
seen him swallow a penny.
Yeah, the other ones I have are all actually downer news. So Shaun the Sheep doing exceedingly well review-wise, not doing well, actual attendance-wise, not doing good.
I think the ads are kind of terrible for it. Like, you can see them adding sound effects to it that weren't originally there to make it sound more wacky than it is. So it ends up looking not like an Aardman-style film, which usually kind of have a more subdued sense of humor with that quirkiness.
Hmm.
So I think it's just being marketed terribly here.
Very possible. Because I think the previous Aardman films have done fairly well in the U.S. I thought. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah,
it's
well the Wallace and Gromit Were Rabbit movie I think won the animation Oscar that year.
which is kind of. I mean, you don't think like. Do people like Wallace and Gromit? Like, I mean, people like Wallace and Gromit, but is there like a public consciousness of Wallace and Gromit? Like, there's a Wallace and Gromit film. I bet the little children will love that. I don't know what this
I
accent
think on
is,
some
but
level there is. There's kind of some awareness because the Wallace and Gromit original short movies were on a rotation fairly often on a lot of the public television channels.
okay.
So like that's where I remember first watching them on PBS when I was
Red,
a kid.
Red, what's your thought on Wallace and Gromit?
What?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's my thought. What?
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Apparently the American public, in fact, are going bleh to Shaun the
Yeah,
Sheep.
that's me. I've got my right on
He
the
is our
pulse
he
in
is
the
our
American
sample
public.
size.
He is the demographics. The last thing I have is another kind of oddball. So artists working at Shadow Machine on the Netflix cartoon series BoJack Horseman, which I've not seen, but I've heard from friend of ours, Kavanaugh, is pretty good.
It
Uh,
is.
it received like a letter from the show's producer, Eric Blyler, asking them to remove their artwork of the show from the internet. Basically saying like any sort of art that they have on their Tumblrs or whatever of stuff they're working on, examples of storyboard, background art, prop art, or even anything like even their original like sort of fan art for the show, take it all down. They're basically saying like, oh, we want to centralize it because they don't actually give a reason. They said that we need to end that practice because the show's getting more attention, and then they need to be more protective of what they show online, quote unquote.
And it's kind of weird because a lot of other shows have had. So when you work on a TV show, and I've had to do this at least a couple times, is you sign a NDA, or otherwise known as a non-disclosure agreement, which basically says that like, hey, you don't talk about things going on in the show in public. You don't host a whole bunch of the background or sketch work that you're doing for it, like concept art. You're not, unless given permission to do so ahead of time, you're kind of not to do that. However, the NDA usually runs out, or at least is often not enforced, when the show and whatever project you're on has broadcast. So, in practice, most studios have just gone, hey, you know what? A lot of these artists need to promote themselves online, or they need to add it to their portfolios to continue finding work. And a lot of people are now hired through their social media accounts just by having made a whole bunch of art, and someone who works on the show goes, oh wow, I really like this person's art, let's see if we can bring them in. And by kind of banning them from doing this, it can possibly cause an issue there. And it's also just very strange because it feels they, yes, while they probably have the legal right to do so, it's a very tone deaf enforcement of, I think, this type of thing. And it's also just, it's not really kind of with the times and what the artists and the public needs. And I think the public has gotten used to and really much enjoys communicating with people who work on these shows. I mean, you have the Tumblrs that are run by the crews of Steven Universe and We Bear Bears, and all these other shows like Gravity Falls and all that. So people have gotten a taste of it, and I think over time they've gotten to expect being able to have communications with the people who work on these things.
And it does a lot for calling attention just to all the individual staff on these shows because there's a big, thing with like these shows that they tend to be focused overly on the showrunners, your Pendleton Wards and whatnot, the public facing, creators that we try to assign some sort of auteur identity to. But there's a lot of individual people working on all these shows doing a lot of work to, make them what they are. I mean, if Rebecca Sugar didn't have a outlet for, calling attention to everything that she's doing and really calling attention to herself, would she have gotten the attention she had, and would she have been able to then go on and do, stuff like, Steven Universe as a result, from her doing work on Adventure Time? Who knows? It's kind of thing like the modern times seems to be like this is actually a good way of promoting your show to call attention to your artist and have people get kind of into the general sort of media consciousness of it, like the hype train, as they say.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Is that every person who works on your show, because thanks to social media, can become a sort of vector or a node in kind of the network to help promote your show. Because every person that they know will go, oh, hey, I know someone who works on this show. Check it out. And then it spreads and kind of cascades from there. By doing this, you're kind of limiting that a little bit. and it limits the casual observer. So like they might see, some concept art on Tumblr for the show and they go, wow, that's really interesting. And they'll check it out and things like that. I mean, overall, it just seems very, again, tone deaf is the word I would use for just the way things are now.
Right.
So again, I think they probably do have the legal right to do so, but whether or not that they choose to kind of enforce and carry it out is the issue here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Yeah, and I have one little last bit of news I just remembered that I forgot to mention is that a bunch of Studio Ghibli former employees opened a new studio specializing entirely in traditional painting background art. It's called Deho Gallery. That's all
Yes.
we know. Their website looks pretty neat. It sure looks like they're doing traditional background art as they said that they were going to do. So
Yep. So
hope
that would put
hope
them
they
in
make
league
money.
with. No, it's not that bad of an idea because so there are studios out there that just specialize in doing these backgrounds. So for example, there is a pretty popular one that I like called Studio Pablo,
Mhm.
and they do a bunch of backgrounds and they're pretty well done. I mean,
It's all impressionism and stuff. That's like just
it's
faces leaning everywhere.
no, it's a variety of styles. I mean,
Pablo
it's
Picasso.
yes, but in general, it's not unheard of as a practice.
Sure.
I mean, whereas here everything is kind of preferred to be done in house, at least for television at the moment.
Mhm.
When you get into VFX, of course, everything is just split up among studios and things like and specializations. But for 2D animation in the US, we kind of keep everything mostly in house for that.
Yeah.
Over
Whereas
there,
Japan has lots and lots and lots of outsourcing everywhere. And you also have a lot of cases where if like a certain show or a certain episode of something is like, oh God, we need to get this done and we need to get this done well. Everybody call in all their friends that they have in other animation studios. Get all hands on deck. Call in all favors. We're getting everybody in on this. And you see a lot of that. Like when you look at all the studios that say worked on I don't know, like Gurren Lagann or Eureka 7. Like there's like 24 animation studios technically worked on it, and they've had like like dozens and dozens and dozens, like every named animator that you could ever guess the name of actually worked on it at some point.
see, I guess the metaphor I would use is it resembles a champagne tower,
Mhm.
and that you have a lot of spillover, and all the remainder just continually spills out to different smaller studios and satellite studios that
Sure,
pick up the slack, essentially.
sure.
So it's not that unheard of to do a background exclusive studio, and it also allows them to have focus on doing that type of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm excited. I don't know what projects they've hooked yet, but considering their pedigree, I bet they'll at least be able to get started on some stuff pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Although they might end up costing a little bit more than many other budgets can handle. But I'm excited to see what they do.
I think that's it.
And We Bear Bears
Oh
Cartoon
yeah,
Network's new show started. I enjoy it. It's fun. So I'm excited for it.
yeah. I mean, I watched the first couple episodes. It was pretty neat.
Hooray.
Yep.
And then Rick and
Panda is
Morty
the
season
biggest
2
weeb
started.
ever, and it's great. So let's get on to Captain Planet.
Ah,
So 1993 through 1996, it was created by Ted Turner. Animated by Deke, and then later on Hanna-Barbera. It lasted for about 6 seasons and around 113 episodes. And for this, we watched 6 episodes, and I think we'll just go through each one individually because what the hell. So the first one I ended up watching was Turtles in a Half Shell.
Turtle power.
Yep. So this is I think one of many references to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think they've done it more than once in other episodes that they've referenced that show.
I mean, they
But
do references any time. Like a lot of episodes basically come out of like so and so's popular and in the public consciousness. Let's do it about that.
yep. So this one is a Galapagos Island adventure with a robot explorer, and so the Planeteers
His name
are
is Jason.
whose name is Jason,
Thank
and so the
you.
Planeteers are
He
in
helps
this.
discover the Titanic, or at least its prototype did.
Yeah. So he shows the Planeteers are in this. I guess it's a museum in New York, where Jason is being remote controlled all the way across the globe
But punk
Yeah,
kids.
the Galapagos Islands.
It's the New York City Robot Control Museum.
Yes.
You've been there, right?
No.
Oh,
What
it's-
you lived in New York City all this time and you never visited the New York City
Down
Robot
on-
Control Museum?
It's down
no,
on Fifth
I-
Avenue.
You're so
Oh,
shitty. You're the
I thought-
fucking worst.
Oh, I thought they replaced it with the Museum of Sex because I went there instead.
No, that's on 4th Avenue.
Uh, Well, either way, and so Jason, I guess the idea behind him is that having this robot allows for exploration without disturbing the environment, but in this case it seems like a lot of really complex effort for very little like good in the
Well,
end.
Jason's a real robot. Let's not forget
Oh no,
that
I
robot's real.
understand. But
It's
the things they
real.
have, well, the
It
things
can't go
it
on
does in
land. It's actually just a
yes.
marine robot.
He
They
doesn't
just
have little robot legs that come out and can
he
squirt
he,
water.
Why?
he
Why
doesn't
does it
make
have a
out. He
squirt
doesn't
gun
make out with
feature?
tortoises. He doesn't do that in real life. But he's real.
Real
Yeah.
to me too.
I want
Zorak.
to kiss him, but he's real, but not that real. He doesn't crab walk his way around with. Yeah, no.
So here's the other thing too is so not only do they kind of make a whole bunch of references to Ninja Turtles, they also have the mutation goo from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So there are these rats that just get mutated into these giant like horrible monsters with
Inexplicably, they're
with
just out
open
there.
sores.
Well, okay.
they have like
Let's
really
not forget why this starts is the fact that Hoggish Greedley, a rich ass jerky pig man who loves pollutant shit, and Verminous Scum, the same but a rat man, were out
I'm
on a.
going to stop you there and cut you off and say Ed Asner and Jeff
They're-
Goldblum were out on a fishing trip.
Sure, exactly. They were out on a fishing trip, but they were also a pig man and a rat man.
Yeah,
That's
Ed
great.
Asner and Jeff Goldblum were out on a fishing trip.
Yeah.
Very true.
Zorak, why did you have to repeat yourself there?
I'm sorry, you're quite right. But they were out on a fishing trip, as apparently they do, with a bunch of magical waste that when it spills, like, oh, what does that stuff do? It's like, I don't know.
haven't tested it out yet.
His literal words he says are, I have no idea.
And they just have this on their boat for no reason.
With no covers on them because they're terrible polluters. This is the message of the show, by the way. Basically that, and they're like, man, we're sure hungry, and these velociraptor rats sure are hungry. Hey, look, it's the Galapagos. Let's go eat some turtles.
Yeah.
That's
and again,
it. That's the
these
plot.
rats that get transformed by this goo, they aren't just like, oh, now they're larger. They have open sores. They look like they're just like ulcers all over them. It's really gross.
Neeksy, how would you know whether they were bad? Huh?
I think
You have to forget that they're living
ominous
creatures for a second
synth
here.
music would be enough.
But yeah, basically they go there and they're like, oh, we're gonna dig up all the turtle eggs and fuck these Galapagos tortoises. The one just sheds a tear and they just hang out with this tortoise that's they
the
dub
single tear.
Shelly because it's got an E on its shell. Oh,
So I have to stop here real quick though. These are the most ugly drawn tortoises I've ever seen in my life.
I've
Yeah.
seen uglier in other
They
episodes.
look ugly and horrible. Like I know normally, like when people draw like turtles and reptiles, they try to make them look cute by giving them kind of different feet. No, these look horrible. They don't look
This
look
is-
charming. They don't look
This
cute.
is
They look like
flat out-
sad. Ugh.
This is a recurring trend in this series. Just, oh, we're doing a show about sharks. And it's like, oh, has anybody ever seen a shark?
nobody
I think
raised
I
their
have,
hand.
and they just kind of go for it.
I don't know. They did the blue-footed boobies pretty well.
Yeah!
They're
That's
Just,
because
just
who doesn't
not
love
the
blue-footed
tortoises. The
They're
tortoises,
bad
for
at
some
drawing
reason-
animals in general, like just period. Like later episode we watch about wolves and elk. The way
Oh,
they
yeah,
drew
those
them
wolves
looked
are
fucking
horrible.
terrible. They look
They look
nothing
like
like the real
DeviantArt
thing.
sparkle wolves. It's horrible.
Oh, the Amazon River Dolphin one. Remember
Oh
that
god,
one?
there's a bunch of ones that just have just nothing looks
half,
real.
half the time Matisse monkey shows up.
Yeah,
Man, that monkey's
oddly,
awesome.
most of the episodes that we watched, he's not in them. Thank God. And here's the other thing I found
You're
really
right.
funny too.
You're
is
right.
that-
Why isn't he there? Where the fuck are they putting the monkey during these off episodes?
He lives in his jacket. We've seen this. He crawls out of it
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, and sometimes he does a little
He's
dance
just there.
number.
He
He
has like
crawls
a fourth,
out of it and he's got the proportions of a little man.
He has like
It's
a fourth
creepy.
dimensional little like tattered vest, I guess, is what he keeps it in.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
here's the other thing:
he's
is
from Central
I love
America.
that the characters are just spitting out really random animal facts in the most awkward way possible. So they're looking at the underwater footage of Jason because Jason's supposed to be an underwater robot.
Yeah, he's an
And then he
RV.
goes, I want to see the giant tortoises. I hear they could weigh over 500 pounds and live for over a century. Like
To
they're
be-
looking at diving iguanas and manta rays. Like it's just inserted there out of nowhere. No one
To be
prompts him to say
fair,
this.
It is a small child who spends his time in a museum that is spouting out these facts that he knows about animals.
in general, Mati,
which is a thing that children do.
True, but well, how old are these kids too? Like, are they supposed to
The
be
Planeteers?
The
Yeah,
Planeteers are like
because
debatable.
Mati's the one who says that line. Like, he's just randomly shouting things out.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've established Mati's a weird kid.
Yeah, he
Mati's
has
weird.
a lot of really weird statements that make no fucking sense throughout this entire thing in general. Like, and I think he has some learning problems.
He's from Central America. He's got a lot of. He's weird. There's an episode we didn't watch, but there's an episode where he just keeps reading like a dime store like noir novel from like the 1950s, and he's obsessed about it and getting like causing like car crashes and shit because he keeps reading this damn fucking book like a fucking idiot nerd that he is, and it's great.
All his friends are dying around him, and he's so engrossed in this
It's,
book.
and he's like accusing random like Chinese guys of being horrible bio like terrorists. And it's like, oh, I just run a firework factory. It's like, it was you. You started the fire. And it's like, Mati, whoa, dude, settle the fuck down. We're about to get on this train and die. You want to come help us? Like, oh, you're gonna get distracted on that too. Mati's terrible.
Well,
he's from
so-
Central
speaking
America.
of
I don't know,
terrible, you
he's
also have Wheeler, who is basically
culture
the
shock.
complete fuck up of the group, and he's
Wheeler's the one we're supposed to identify with.
well. Here's the thing:
Alright.
is he is quite possibly the epitome of the ugly American stereotype, and for someone whose very job it is to know about like environmental science, he really knows shit about shit.
Most of them don't know shit about shit. They know very specific things.
Sometimes the
Yes.
other ones are hyper competent,
Except for when they're not the next scene.
except for when they're not.
Okay,
character-
there is
characterization in this show is very variable at best.
There is one person who is hyper competent at all times, and it's Kwame.
Yes.
Kwame never does
Yes.
anything wrong. Period. Like ever.
Yeah.
Right.
He is like the only time I could think of is the episodes involving the evil version of Gaia, which we didn't
Oh,
watch.
right.
Another one where they have the War Gaia voiced by Sting.
Please, his name is Sting.
Exactly. We have War Gaia, aka Sting, who at that point Kwame's like, yeah, I want to crush people with rocks. Yeah. But who doesn't? I mean, but anyways, basically Jason goes on the island and like, what up? There's Ed Asner eating eggs. He's got the little chef hat on and stuff.
He's literally just cracking them open over a pan and just frying them up.
You can't do with tortoise eggs.
I
They don't
know,
have shells
that's-
like that.
Well, they also draw the eggs as being like chicken egg shaped. They're not.
they do.
They're not tortoise egg shaped at
Also,
all.
wouldn't they be fertilized? Like you're just cooking little like
Yes, he is cooking the embryos.
it.
He doesn't care. He's Ed Asner. He wants turtle eggs.
It's true.
Yeah.
Who
That's a
are
man who
you
loves
to
him
get
some
in the
turtle
way
eggs.
between Ed Asner and food?
You could eat turtle eggs and be married.
Huh. Didn't know that.
Freakazoid jokes. Yeah. Then they basically fly out there after. I think they get a pizza, or they talk about getting a pizza.
No,
That's
no. Wheeler basically goes like, "Gee, this stuff sure is boring. I want to go get a snack." Then Soviet girl's like, "Oh, Wheeler, you are so American." And he gets a bunch of pizzas delivered to the museum, and he just
Because
takes a whole
Teenage
bunch
Mutant
of the
Ninja Turtles.
Yep, and also pizza. This is the '90s, yeah, pizza.
But
Ugh.
mostly Ninja Turtles.
Mostly
there's
Ninja
that too.
Turtles, though. I mean,
And they even make reference to it.
the show.
So-
The show is. I got a lot of stuff wrong with it, but being overbearingly '90s, like yeah, for its era, it is a little kind of like, oh come on, but it doesn't get really into like this isn't Game Pro TV or something. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, to be fair, I have a harder time shitting on this show than maybe things like your G.I.'s Joe, because at least this one
Yo.
attempts to have its heart in in the right place.
I don't
Here's
know.
the thing: when you get down to it, this show did actually make money for environmental campaigns. 'Cause
Sure.
all the
Yeah. So I
proceeds
had
of
trouble
it
shitting
go
on
to
it,
that.
and even then, it's actually surprisingly more competent and it makes more sense than some of the other shows
I
around
don't
it at
know
the same
if that's
time.
actually the case or not.
I'm
because
comparing
I
it to
don't
G.I.
think
Joe.
it is.
The
yeah.
No,
emotional-
I'm comparing it to G.I. Joe. This makes more sense.
No, G.I. Joe makes sense. That's the fucked up thing about G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe makes a lot of sense. The thing is that the plots in G.I. Joe are just fucking stupid deliberately. Okay?
You gotta
Okay,
make a weather
then-
control machine.
That
Yeah.
Control
that's
the weather.
yeah,
You're gonna
sure.
play hockey with its major components.
Yes. But the thing was that so many like the messages here, like you're like trying to get an environmental message, but so many of them are just like, hey, environment, am I right? guys.
Yeah.
Am I right? Like,
oh yeah, no, they do a terrible job of actually delivering
like
any
the
coherent
whole
message.
like, can we bring this out a level? Basically, like, okay, the whole point of the show is to teach kids to be more, think more about the environment and the impact that they have on it. And also, to be more, thoughtful about how they treat the environment and just in general, like, good practices, bad practices, that sort of thing. And you'd think that in order to make a kind of a good comparison to the real world, the villains that they would have and the plots that they deal with would be, say, analogous to sort of things that you actually have environmental issues with in the real world. Instead, we get these fantasy ass like plots that are like barely connected to any sort of like real world sense of like, oh, these are the crises that people have to deal with in saving our environment. Like, it's completely ignoring just like how much of the environmental issues are the banality of, hey, we just want to make some bucks.
Well, here's the other thing: is this whole episode seems to want to be about the idea of introducing outside species to a closed environment and how that just fucking destabilizes absolutely
But it's
everything.
a terrible way because it's Velociraptor rats.
Yes, exactly, and that's the thing is like, you know what? Like, you could have just had them introduce that. At just regular rats and still have it completely do the whole destabilizing thing without confusing the whole thing with magical purple goo. Like, you don't need that.
There are actual rats, and that's the issue.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, they could just do that. Just have them introduce, like, a random
Swarms.
species into
That's
there.
not entertaining to the kids, though.
Sure, but they could, I think you could actually make that, work. It's like, oh man, this is really, like, you could have more real world problems and stuff and make it still, I think, entertaining for the kids. Like, I don't know if was Velociraptor rats that entertaining?
Yeah,
now
like
I'm just picturing 20 minutes of them just killing rats with their wings.
That would be fucking rad.
That would actually be much more interesting, and I actually hate it whenever Captain Planet shows up, because he is the most annoying, awful character in this entire thing.
He's great because he's never on model, and that's great. I love him.
No, he's almost always on model. He just has new powers.
And new weaknesses. His weaknesses and powers vary every single time. Like, so he's the strongest, but also the weakest, because not only is he weakened by pollution, he is also apparently weakened by someone being angry at him or just kind of evil.
No, you literally have to be Hitler or Dracula.
Yes. But then also the slightest possible impurity anywhere near him causes
except for when it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yes, except for when it doesn't.
I mean, though Captain Planet often has like weird like faces that are just like, I mean, I know.
Well, all his dialogue is annoying.
Like,
okay?
I
hate everything he says.
I know Deke animated this supposedly. There's some that clearly a lot of the animation's outsourced to Japan, because some of these episodes their faces get anime as fuck. It's like straight up like, oh wow, what was this made by Sunrise?
Okay. Speaking of the animation thing, that intro is really beautifully animated.
Yeah, it is.
I was like, holy shit, that's really fucking beautiful stuff.
It's the 90s. That's a regular thing. I mean,
no, even amongst a lot of 90s shows, like, not all of them did that. Like, there were ones that did that, but like this one in particular definitely did that. Like,
I'm just thinking.
I was like, shit, what it could have looked like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing, is that this show exists, as far as I'm aware, basically as a passion project for Ted Turner, because Ted Turner, for all the stuff that's hilarious about Ted Turner, his love of bison, which, hey, the guy loves bison, whatever.
And M. Bison?
No, he doesn't love M. Bison. He just loves his pet bison. And
you leave Teddy Jr. out of this.
All right, I'll leave Teddy Jr. out of this, Ted. All right, I'm sorry. But the whole thing is, it's a pet project. It's like, okay, we need to make a show that does better for the environment. I'm going to get all of my, Hollywood friends to get on this, or I'll pay them money to get on this. For all that being said, these first few seasons have some really bad animation. Like, you'd think for being a passion project, he'd put a little bit more money on it, but I don't know, like, wasn't the WWE also a passion project for him, I guess? Like, or WWF?
WCW.
Whatever. One of the W's.
God, Hulkamat would ruin you.
I know. Well, no, he wouldn't. I'm not a young child. But anyways.
Well, so anyways, the Captain Planet shows up. He gets poisoned by poison eggs that they just throw at him.
Yeah, because
So a Halloween prank takes him down, and so Jason has to use, I guess, a squirt gun feature that it has because I guess it foresaw that this was going to have to happen.
Money
And it
shots.
and yes, and so it delivers a nice blue shower on him, drags him to a tide pool along with the turtle.
Turtle
who
makes out
he-
with him.
Well, yeah, he gives the turtle superpowers to carry him to the tide pool. Why didn't he just use that energy on himself to get him to the tide pool?
I don't think he was using superpowers. I think he was mentally controlling the turtle.
Yeah, he was
which is a
using
new
the
power.
heart powers to do it.
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah.
Turtles are strong, dog.
And the thing is you know what? But you know what ends up actually solving the problem? Pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza cures these rats of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, pizza can do many things, you know. It's an
Pizza,
ancient
Pizza lured them back onto the boat so they could burn it in the middle of the ocean.
literally happened. It's an ancient Italian secret, you know.
Yeah, that's how you get rid of rats.
Yo. I don't even have a joke here.
And let's not forget that Ed Asner gets covered in the goop and he turns into Ganondorf.
Yeah.
Literally.
And he chases after the Ratman to then eat him.
Yeah.
Ganon.
They put him on a tiny little island to destabilize
I
that
want
one.
you inside me, Jeff Goldblum.
Who doesn't?
And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much
Yeah,
how
it's like
that
what's
episode ends.
what's the message we were supposed to take here? Don't introduce other stuff to
It's
ecosystems.
don't introduce rats to the Galapagos.
Which is-
Especially and don't put purple Kool-Aid on them.
that makes things certainly worse. But again, it's a case of, okay, you have a fundamental message, but you guys lose sight of it completely because you try making it super. It's a super crisis, and everybody involved is an evil villain, as Ed Asner is, and Jeff Goldblum. And then you, of course, add on then the layer of, okay, we want to make references to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because that's really popular right now. And also, I don't know, they're trying to do Titanic shit. Jason. Let's put Jason in it. Can we get the rights to Jason? Does
Don't
anybody
fault
have the
Jason.
rights to Jason? No, nobody can own Jason.
Why would
Jason's
they
his
need
own
the
man.
rights to Jason? Because he doesn't end up operating remotely like the actual Jason. They could have just done any robot at this point.
No, they were operating remotely from New York City, which doesn't make any sense. But
I don't think you get the allure of Jason, my friend.
No, I
Central
understand, but like, if you're gonna pay the money to get the naming rights to Jason, which obviously
I
have
don't
to
think
come at a
they had to
pretty
pay
penny.
much money for Jason's naming rights. In
Oh,
fact,
we're saying
See
Jason
now
too much, we're
who's
getting too
underestimating the allure of Jason, huh?
I'm
Huh?
I'm more guessing that like it might actually come out if we look it up. I'm guessing it turns out like Ted Turner paid like $5 to sponsor Jason existing or something. He's like, "Can I use this with my bison?" I'm like,
He was on ground
"No."
floor of the Kickstarter.
Damn it.
So let's see. Let's go to the next episode where they decide to tackle an entirely different environmental issue: the L.A. riots.
It was fucking weird.
Yeah.
So this episode was called "Talkin' Trash," and it starts with like the LA riots that have like these huge fires. Captain Planet explodes into a big ball of fire, and apparently adding wind to fire does not fan the flames.
Oh, yeah,
it
it puts it out.
extinguishes them.
Well, that's yeah.
And then and all this is happening because there's a gang known as Trash because
No, hold on.
subtlety.
Hold up, actually. Let me cut you off there. The LA riot is completely unrelated to the actual plot. That is just happening.
Oh yeah,
Because
right.
they're
so
solving the
Trash is
problem,
New York
and he gets a
versus-
call from his mother saying, "Hey, you should come home. Your dad's sick." So he goes across the country, leaving the rest of them to deal with the LA riot.
So he goes to
what-
New York City, where it turns out that he's in the middle of the Warriors. Like, all his childhood friends
It
are
really
the
is.
Warriors. Like, they're in the same fucking, like, the dumb outfits from the Warriors. It's like, what
and
the fuck is
background-
this, the
well,
1970s?
and look at the backgrounds and the streets and the city, like everything else about it is like he is in that fucking movie. You know, he is an escape from New York. And here's the other thing too: is
It's
they
getting there,
decide
yeah.
to go a bit darker with this. So so now the dad is not just sick. So let's talk about what he's sick with. His liver is failing because he's an abusive drunk. And so this
Yeah.
is like an attempt at some kind of character development, giving like Wheeler some kind of background, but it actually raises more questions, meaning like, you just ran off 2 years ago. It's like, oh my god, is Gaia just like kidnapping children just from around the world?
Yeah, basically.
Here's the thing: is in this episode there were actually some short moments of really decent animation, like when he gets his ass beat by a bunch of the Vandals at first. that was it. There was actually a couple moments of like good posing and animation in there. Then it all goes to shit, but like for some random one reason, like one scene, they splurged on it. And so Wheeler's like, wow, man, my neighborhood really has gotten all fucked up. Oh, I'm so sad. Dad still hates me. I'm just gonna wander the streets where I got robbed earlier.
Hey, now he doesn't
What's
sound.
a rave
Don't
party?
hey, don't imply that Wheeler sounds like he's some like rad surfer dude from California.
Yeah,
He's a fucking New Yorker.
He's got a fucking
Own
New
up to
Yorker
it.
accent. You of all people should know what New Yorkers sound
Own up
like.
to it.
New Yorkers don't sound like that anymore.
Do it. Do the accent.
I can't. I'm not from there.
You've
Do
been
it,
there.
Daywalker.
You've lived
No.
there.
No, but no one speaks like that anymore.
Well, yeah, but this was
if I wanted
1993.
to sound like
All
my
right,
neighborhood,
Neeksy.
I would be speaking in Puerto Rican Spanish.
Just forget about it. All right, let's move on. So
So he wanders the streets and he finds out about what's a rave party.
yes.
Rave parties.
What's this? What are these rave parties? After a man gets thrown out of a window, as
It's like,
all
whoa, are
raves.
you okay? It's like, yeah, I'm alright.
That's how raves go. The people just get thrown out of fucking windows.
And so obviously when he goes into this party, it does look nothing like a rave because nobody involved in the show knows what that is. Also, using the word party after rave.
Yet also, again, we said it already, but I really want to call attention to it again. Everybody's dressed up like this is the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like
And
literally,
here's this
literally.
And here's the great thing is later on there's this one exchange that I actually thought was kind of interesting and surprisingly realistic, is that it kind of talks about the American dream being a complete joke because they're like, oh yeah, she tried to balance a whole bunch of jobs and do things and it just wasn't cutting it. I was like, wow, actually they kind of almost said something about the struggles of the working poor.
Yeah, I can't wait
Now
for them to
here's a
address
bunch
that
of
in the
giant rat
episode.
furries running around and giving them flamethrowers.
Hey man, that's mutant Jeff
He-
Goldblum. Leave him alone.
Hey,
No,
Jeff
he's not voiced by
Goldblum
Jeff
gave them
Goldblum
a
anymore in this one.
flamethrower and a stack of bricks.
And he doesn't look, his model's entirely different now too.
Yeah.
Sometimes he wears the cowl. Okay.
Well, no,
So-
I think the color changed too. Like
Maybe.
it doesn't sound like him, it
Mutants
doesn't
change
look like him.
colors.
Yes.
Well, to be
And-
fair, Maurice LaMarche does voice him like at most of the later episodes.
But
But it's
voice-
funnier just to call him Jeff Goldblum because
And
he's doing the Jeff
also,
Goldblum
their
voice.
voices sound almost identically the same in the show. Like
Yeah,
he does a
Because
really
Maurice
good Jeff
LaMarche is
Goldblum
great
as a
at doing
rat
that shit.
impression.
Yes, to be fair. So these kids are basically becoming literal domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
Like they are literally just burning down buildings with and these are full on flamethrowers. And they get this from the sewer rat guy who also has this super technocopter
yeah.
and he's still living in the fucking sewers.
Look,
Yep.
it was 1993. We all had those.
And so so Wheeler finds his old childhood friend Trish, who's renamed herself Trash, and
Trash.
it's like, but man, you used to be a great artist. It's like, of course. And she's like, well, things suck now. You just ran away. And then she continues being a terrorist. And
Yeah.
they just like, wow, you're jumping trains now. That's dangerous. It's like, yeah, well, you know that best friend you had? Well, he got his head knocked off.
Well, that's the fucked up thing. It's even more
that's-
fucked up than that because it's a guy he's talking to in the first half of the episode, and then he just vanishes. Like, oh, what happened
And
to
the-
Joey? He got
It's like, yeah, what happened to Ricky? And it's like, oh, I'll just check the fucking morgue. He got his head taken off by the train. It's like, oh, wow, that
they
took a
just
turn.
have to drop it. They don't have any sort of like, oh god, what like tragic moment? It's like they just put it there and they immediately move on.
Yep.
Yep.
Never comes up again.
So they then are these kids are then sent to kind of, I guess, trash a symposium of some sort.
Yeah, there's an
But-
environmental symposium or something.
Yeah, it's something about, like, I guess for the community, so it's not an green environmentalist thing, but more of the sociological environment thing.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, so it turns out that he is good. The rat guy is gonna just, I guess, turn on them anyway. So Wheeler warns them, and the girl is. This is her line. I can't believe that scum would let me die. His name is literally Scum.
Yeah,
You
it is.
trust this man.
That's his surname. His first name is
He is a
Verminous.
giant rat man.
He's a giant rat ninja.
But either
Yeah.
way, and actually there's some pretty interesting action sequences here because there is no Captain Planet in it. So she jumps onto his helicopter. It's like, wow, this is a lot more exciting and interesting than most of the other episodes have any right to be.
Yeah.
And also, it's basically like, "Whoa, Wheeler, you didn't tell us you were a fucking wizard."
Yeah, because he uses his ring power.
It's like, oh
he
yeah,
just
I can
shoots
set fire
out
on
of his
people
hand.
now.
Yep. Oh right, he lights a building in his own neighborhood on fire.
Yeah.
And his dad just goes like, "What's my piece of shit son doing now?"
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah.
So they crash the helicopter, they save the day, and then they clean up the neighborhood in like 5 minutes. And what's really sad is like they have to paint a mural of a tree on the wall because there is literally
It's
literally
in
no
memory of an
there's
actual
no
tree.
vegetation anywhere in the city. Nowhere. And then his father issues are resolved almost immediately. And I guess again, the entire team must be made up of teenage runaways. Like, because again, he's like, "Well, I'm off again, here to get my stuff." It's like, wait, he didn't take his stuff with him when he left to become a Planeteer. Did they
No,
was
he
kidnapped?
dropped off his bag when he came to visit his dad, and he's like,
Yeah.
and his dad
My
was being
favorite
Right.
part of that as well. I'm glad you live in this shithole. I'm gonna go back and live with my friends in the South Pacific.
It's
With
great.
my magic
got a
powers
monkey.
and and my amazing jet plane.
It's great. There's a lot of room out there. I go wakeboarding all the time. It's great.
Also, we never have to worry about money or food.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about career advancement because I guess this is just my life now.
They
forever.
taught me how to fly a solar-powered helicopter. I'm pretty good.
Yep. And I like that. And so basically, the end has this very super condescending moral that despite the conditions facing inner cities and poverty, that those could just be fixed by just adjusting your attitude,
Isn't
guys.
the more? Yeah, isn't
just
the moral?
get just get happier and
It's
you'll
just quit being such a shit and fix your shit up. And it's like, oh, okay.
Work harder, guys. That's why your cities are crap.
Go fix that empty lot up. You can play baseball in it now.
I mean, to be fair, one little thing to be fair is like urban like renewal type stuff in the sense of there are stuff you can do. Like there's been a lot of talk of like for decades.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For decades now about using open spaces in cities,
And community projects and
sure,
again,
but at the
the
same time,
the New Deal essentially.
Blaming the kids for that is fucking horseshit, and the entire like messaging of what's going wrong here is just dumb. Like, oh, okay, kids, don't listen to rats and become eco-terrorists. And then the intro of the episode being the literal LA riots is so fucking off message. Like, what the
And they
fuck?
never go back to it. That's just happening.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
so off message. Like, and they literally have what's their? Oh God, I feel like a fucking asshole.
Oh, Wheeler, I'm glad you're back. They put my tea in the
what's-
trash
what's-
can and threw him through a window.
What's the Chinese girl's name again?
Yi, right?
Yes, Yi.
She's the one who does the least stuff on the show for some reason. I don't know why that is.
Well, no, there is one episode where she does do something, and it is kind of horrifying
It's-
and maybe evil, but we'll get to that later.
But usually it's just her being sad. Like she's the one that gets sad all the time. Like, oh,
To be
Dolphins.
fair, she's all about the ocean, and there are a lot of reasons to be sad about the ocean. Right
sure, but it's more just like
she's the
I think she was like
empathetic one.
But I think in this episode she begins with saying, like, "Why would you set fire to your own city?"
What could possibly, cause that thing to happen? Some kind of injustice, almost racial. I don't know. That's silly, guys. Never mind. I'm on the wrong track here.
It's like,
Yeah.
did you guys never see Do the Right Thing?
But again,
Like, did you guys never see this film? It's
But
pretty
again,
important.
they-
Spike
they
Lee
have
is out
that
there shaking
line.
his head.
But again, then there's that line that the guy who gets his head knocked off says. It's like, hey, even when we get jobs and we work multiple jobs, it's still not working. So they almost are somewhat on the right track, at least half of it. I mean, like they don't even touch the whole racial animus aspect because most of these kids are white in this.
I think if they made them black, that the show would move slowly into really offensive based
Oh
off
no,
of it.
I understand, but I mean the idea is like if you're going to try to be realistic about the issue, like well, racism has a huge other half to this
Absolutely.
besides the economics. Like
Absolutely.
so again, this whole moral at the end ends up just being really condescending, going like, don't worry, just because the police will specifically target you and that like you can't get yourself out of like poverty no matter how hard you work, just improve your attitude. It's like they don't even talk about the community
Bootstraps.
projects thing. The message outright was stated mostly just about attitude and not like saying, "Hey, here, check with your local like blank to see if there's community projects you can be,
Look, Matt,
something."
look.
They don't.
All I know is that I was taken out of my house by the spirit of the goddamn planet. You give it a magical ring along with 4 other people, and we go on cool adventures, and everything's working out all right for me.
So why don't you kids start doing it too?
Yeah! Make
Fuck
something
you,
of yourself.
got mine.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, if they had spent more time on the kind of like, hey, maybe, what if?
I'm just fucking saying, I'm a Planeteer, you can be one too. I'm just fucking saying.
What if, like, Ricky or whatever, like, the guy who got his head knocked off, what if that guy, say, for example, hadn't got his head knocked off, but he, like, started doing community projects, and then Vermin Scum had him, like tried firebombing, like, his garden or something.
Scum came in and just knocked his head off.
Sure, why not? But I'm just saying, like, what if that was it, and it was him, like, trying to turn, like, trash against, the kid trying to do the projects, like, the community project stuff, and it's actually, that's the message, like, hey, get involved in community projects. They can help you out. They can help out your community. Like, what if that was the message rather than them all happening off screen? Like, we immediately go from, hey, we shouldn't be in gangs from the Warriors to immediately, oh, we did all the community projects. They're all happening now. We'll give no indication about how to get them done yourself.
No, they're all done within 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Like, literally, scene cut, everything's nice now, and she's finished painting this mural. How long has Wheeler been away?
Well, maybe, I mean, it was actually scene cut with Wheeler making out with her, and then Wheeler's lips healed the problem, healed the situation. He went, that's what he did. He went through the entire inner city making out with every teen he could find until they all were just converted.
I guess that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's my new theory for what happened here.
But to be fair, this was actually my favorite of the episodes because it ended up being a lot more interesting because there wasn't a glut of the extra characters that were superfluous in the team. It had barely any Captain Planet solving the issue, and the action scene at the end had a lot more heavy stakes and was more interesting than any of the other type of like action in the show.
Oh, Neeksy, there's an episode I'd be on to watch with you, man.
I'm saying of the 6.
Saving that, but yeah.
We'll save it for another time, but I'm saying of the 6 we have watched, that ended up being my favorite of the 6, just because
it was the least episodic, certainly.
Yeah, it was at least it ended up being more interesting, despite every horrible thing we just talked about.
Most of these episodes are pretty by the numbers and like all of their beats. Like, not necessarily what's going on in them is not necessarily, but the beats of them tend to be pretty typical. Like, okay, here's a problem. We'll call Captain Planet once. Okay, then we get another stuff, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we'll call Captain Planet again at the end.
Well, that or Captain Planet then gets in trouble and we have to save him by dumping water on him, I guess.
Sure.
Huck him overboard.
Like the roller coaster motion of the episodes are all pretty much the same in that regard.
Yeah. Whereas this one was a departure, which was nice.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, the actual subject of the episode, though, was the most, I think, one of the most of the ones we watched that's actually disconnected from a environment message or a message at all. Like, it had some, but it was just so fucking weird that it barely even connected to anything reasonable. The Warriors. Why are the Warriors here? Why? Like, it occurred to me only after watching this that's everybody's aesthetic in it. It's the Warriors. What the fuck?
Yeah, again, though, the shining moment is, oh, he got his head blown off. It's like, that's it.
It's like, whoa, all right. Thanks, children's cartoon.
That's it. And they just are like, oh, well, that's too bad, I guess. It's like talking about the weather to these people.
Wheeler's not really broken up by his friend being dead.
He's just kind of like, oh, that's shocking.
Yeah. And then they jump on the train.
He's been emotionally hardened, but it's okay. He got to make out with his girlfriend at the end.
I guess. Then she never comes back again.
Yep.
Nope.
Anyway, so and she's also voiced by the same character
as his other love interest.
As the other love interest, the I guess non-Soviet anymore because the Soviet Union's gone. They just say Eastern Europe, I guess.
It depends on the episode. When the Soviet Union is there, it does say the Soviet Union.
Yeah, that's right. Because then they just say Eastern Europe.
But then you can tell because it'll be Captain Planet narrating the intro instead of Kwame.
Yeah.
Yep.
The earlier intro's better. Anyway, so let's go on to The Night of the Wolf, an episode about wolf preservation. And it's nice because it's oddly willing to explain how wolves are important by culling the weaker animals, and that nature isn't always like, a sanitary children's storybook.
Yeah,
they actually kind of spell it. They go like, yeah, sometimes nature really is cruel, but like it's necessary.
Yeah,
and
see,
that's when Yi goes, oh
See, that's the weird thing. Like, okay, the basic message of this episode, like, hey, wolves and the Yellowstone, like that's a real thing. Like, and the struggle with like the issue with like with farmers in the area, that's a real
It
thing.
was it was topical at the time.
Yeah,
this
it
came
was.
out,
It's
even.
certainly it's topical today.
And
even.
they actually give you a whole history, and it's very grim, of Yellowstone pre-1930, before they actually set up any of the protections that are in place now.
Sure, and like the whole like re-releasing thing and those programs, it's all real. And it's like, okay, sure, they have a message here about it, but then
But
they
you
have
know how they ruin it?
but then
Robo-wolf.
but then Loot and Plunder shows up and like, I'm going to use a robot wolf to convince these hunters to pay me money to kill the wolves. And it's like, whoa, you guys started with a base concept here and a base lesson, and then you completely departed from it to the sense that nothing here makes any sort of real world bearing. Like, there's no message drive here from, oh, hey, don't create robot wolves, kids, to strain the wolf population.
And here's the thing, I didn't think that there were that many farms still around in the middle of Yellowstone Park.
Around Wyoming, yeah, there are farms out there.
Yeah,
I
usually
have
around it.
drove out there. I've been out there. Yes, there are.
I didn't know it was in the middle of it, though.
Not in the middle
Well,
of it, but
the wolves aren't just going to stay in the
Yellowstone
park.
is a
That's the
massive
issue.
fucking park.
Right.
It's in like 3 states.
That's right.
There's a lot of like edges to it. It's huge. It's one of the largest parks in the country.
In the
So-
Oh,
world.
you know what? I completely I was in my head. I took Yellowstone Park, but I was thinking about the one in California instead.
No.
No,
In my
that's-
head, I had completely
Yeah.
switched the two. Now it makes sense.
To be honest, I have done that before as well.
So okay, now that makes sense. I'll take my objection about the farmers. No, I have one objection. All the
Okay.
cattle are just on the ground with no visible injuries, and they're like, wolves did it. It's like, well, none of them are even eaten. Wolves did it.
Let me
okay?
tell you something about how this usually goes on TV that I watched. Usually they try to bullshit and say it was aliens, so I'm fine with them saying
Hey,
it was wolves.
they'd be actually closer here this time. It's like it was some
Yeah.
sort of scientific super being that did it. Like, well,
Okay,
it kind of
to
was.
be fair, this show is not on the History Channel, so we're okay in that regard.
Ah,
Captain Planet, more scientifically accurate and honest than
fucking
History, Channel.
They don't even play music videos anymore.
So anyway, the Robo Wolf is also made out of tar sands or something because it makes it immune to ring magic.
Oh yeah, he's powered by extra polluting fuel.
Yeah, his blood is
Oil.
literally
They say
polluted
oil, so I was like,
oil.
oh, it's just tar. It has to be tar sands. So because it makes it immune to the ring magic, and it just causes Captain Planet to get migraine.
Doesn't
headaches
just
when
make
he's
it immune
nearby.
to the ring magic, it inhibits the use of the rings anywhere near it.
Yep.
Except for when it doesn't.
Okay.
Yep.
First off, that's kind of badass because like this is like the first time that they actually had like a threat near. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, it's dumb,
Oh,
but it
it's
was
the
actually
first
cool.
time in an episode that we have watched together because it comes up like every other fucking
Sure.
episode.
But I'm just saying, like, as far as threats go, a fucking robot wolf powered by pollution is like one of the more interesting actual threats that they've dealt with in the show.
Right, it's
Kind
stupid
of,
as
except
hell,
for,
but
it is
yes.
stupid as hell because I'm thinking about like,
yeah.
okay, how much money do you think that they're going to get from like the local farmers in order to hunt this non-existent problem?
Yeah, the finances
Like-
make no sense here. No.
Yeah. So like, and how much money did they probably have to pay Dr. Blight for, and also just the amount of research and development costs, like everything. It's like they're gonna make maybe like what?
That's a pretty
maybe
good wolf AI they got in there.
$5,000.
I mean, people would pay to have a robot body. If you can make perfect robot bodies, put my brain in it. I'll give you my fucking money.
Hey, let's save this transhumanist stuff until the later episode.
Sure.
Okay?
But I'm just saying, like, so much of like the mad science in here in this show doesn't
Is
make
to
any
what
s-
end?
It's
Yeah.
to what end, and it's like none of it makes actually sense. Like you could use your mad science to make money in the normal sense without having to do the pollution. Like the pollution makes no real world sense at all because it's just all like I'm evil and I love killing animals and I love pollution.
Well, even sometimes they're not even trying to make money. It's kind of like, well, it's like I just made a potion of pure pollution. It's like, well, what? So what are you going to use it for? Are you going to like ransom the ocean or something? No, because I'm evil.
I'm gonna kidnap all the frogs in the world.
That happened. That actually
Yep.
happened. She kidnapped
Yep.
all the frogs in order to make facial stuff. It was dumb. But like, if they use like, this is my issue with the show. Really, at the core, is that it ignores the fact that pollution and littering and all the stuff we do, it's so banal. Like, nobody in, like, say, Congress is like really obvious, like, I fucking hate wolves or I fucking hate bears. Let's murder all bears. It's really
Hey,
banal.
you know what? To be fair, though, Sarah Palin.
Yeah, sure. But I'm just saying, like, like hunting, sure, yeah, no, but like, it's treated very banally. People use flowery language to cover up, like, the type of stuff that they do. The show doesn't cover up any sort of stuff, like, I'll call attention to the fact, like, hey, a lot of times when companies are polluting, they're doing it to save money. They're being lazy. They're being, they're cheap. They're trying to maximize profits. They're not thinking about the future. They don't call attention to saying the fact, like, hey, folks, you got descendants that are going to have to deal with this shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like
Well,
that.
the problem here would be,
It's all
I
super
think,
villains.
is that so basically what you're saying is that in general in the real world we kind of use language and various forms of abstraction to cover up the banality of evil, essentially.
Sure,
Whereas
but
this
it's
show, instead of covering it up with kind of boring things and distractions, it covers it up with random spooky crazy magic, which ends up also obscuring the kind of reality and the truth of what's causing these things.
for sure.
And
But
again, this show would end up being very anti-capitalist in order to do it, because again, a lot of the decision making is not I hate nature. It's usually something a lot more to do with, well, I don't want to pay taxes on this, and it costs more to do this type of filtering, so meh.
it's not necessarily anti-capitalist. Like, they don't have to, like. I think in the real world, I don't think it's like people are like, oh, I'm covering up my secrets. It's people aren't being, future thinking. They aren't being forward thinking. They aren't thinking about,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay, the future, we need to be more conscious about this stuff. Like, there are a lot of corporations that do relatively think about this kind of thing. Like, there are ways to approach these types of things. There's ways to do this type of stuff. And a lot of it's just like incorrect thinking is generally what drives these sort of things. Like, the hunter in here, in this show, in this particular episode, is concerned about his flock. He thinks that wolves are going to eat his flock. You can have that be the core of the episode and him being like, I'm going to kill the wolves. Like, you can have that message. You can even.
Or you can have the opportunistic hunter guy still be like the supervillain here. You just don't need him to be the one introducing the problem.
Or even.
Ted Turner would never do that. Sorry.
I'm just saying, like, if you can have that sort of stuff in here and it'd make a lot more real world sense. Adding the robot wolf angle, as fucking weird as it is in a fun way, it just completely distracts away from, because, like, real world, nobody's ever going to have to be concerned about robot wolves resulting in, false flag wolf operations. You know what I mean?
And if you want like cartoonish supervillainy, remember BP? Like, that was pretty close. I mean, the shit they were doing, that was pretty close to like cartoonish supervillain level. Like, so like you could do these for entertainment value. You can do some of these exaggerated caricatures and make them do supervillains. But the problem again is that they are confusing and muddying up any possible real world connection to what these characters are supposed to solve with, crazy technology and magic.
I mean, if anything, you'd think, like, basically the fact that these people are pure evil that actually driving this covers up the fact that these people are fucking geniuses, apparently. And if they use their genius for the forces of good, we'd be great, because apparently they can create literally anything they want. Like, fucking Dr. Blight, in an episode we'll be talking about just next, makes a fucking time machine in order to launder weapons. Like, a time machine you could do in, like, an investment scheme. Come on.
Something.
Yeah.
Anything.
Like, you could do some real world good maybe with a time machine, even with Bill and Ted rules in effect. But like, there are ways you can do stuff, and it's like, no, they do fantastical magical tech, and it's used for the most dumb crap that whatever.
Again, it's just a distraction from any of the kind of comprehensive messaging that this thing could do.
Yeah. So okay, this episode.
At the same time, the only reason the show is entertaining is the completely stupid crap.
Sure.
Unintentionally entertaining.
But
Yeah,
I don't think they intended us to enjoy it on the level that we do.
What if the show was narrated by David Attenborough?
Oh my god.
No,
David Attenborough
No, that
is
doesn't
Captain
work
Planet's
because you can
voice
say that
actor.
about any show.
No, they should just have had David Attenborough be Captain Planet.
What if
But he's
Luton
still
Plunder was Sir
dropping the
Richard
puns.
Attenborough? And this was Jurassic Park.
So
Oh, man.
anyway, the Planeteers arrive at this thing, and they're going to be releasing these wolves out of captivity into the to restart the wolf population in Yellowstone.
Which happened.
And they meet this hunter who's concerned that his cattle have all been killed by what turns out to be the Robo Wolf. And Mati falls in love, or I guess forms a crush on this livestock girl, and she
Wait,
takes
hold
Mati
on.
out into the
Matisse falls
Livestock
in love
Girl
with a
sounds like
horse.
something completely unrelated.
whatever her
falls in
name
love
is.
with a
I don't remember her
horse.
name.
I know.
is.
I just
Nobody
Li-
remembers her name.
Livestock Girl implies that he fell in love with like a cow. Like, man,
Oh,
that
okay.
cow honey looks pretty hot.
Well, farmer chick then. So she takes him out into
She's
the
a
forest
child,
to ask for
goddammit!
help. So and he's like, hey Mati, is there something I could only ask you? Takes him out like a few miles into the middle of the dark forest at night to ask for help. It's like you realize like the group with all the powers and shit that we're all on the same team trying to stop this thing, right? Like you came to ask me to help stop your dad from killing these wolves
And it just-
alone
Kwame's
here for no other reason.
Kwame's basically like, have fun making out in the woods or whatever.
Oh, my favorite thing was
Kwame would
Wheeler's
never
like,
say that.
Mati with a girl? Did he just like assume Mati was gay this whole time?
Mati's
No,
a
he's
kid.
just horribly
He's
awkward.
a kid. He's the young one. He's like the. He's
Oh,
like
I thought he was just short.
no. He's
No,
like
he's
like
just an awkward kid.
He's like 13 or something. He's the young one. He's got all the heart.
Yeah.
He just hit
I
puberty.
guess I
It's
don't
weird.
know how old these kids are. I always thought they were like college-age kids or
It-
something.
the ages are really ill-defined, especially given the fact that none of them are with their parents or anything. It's weird.
And
Yeah.
they're drawn like garbage.
And they're like driving airplanes.
Yep. I mean, you can get your pilot's license before you can get your driver's license. You can get that pretty young, in fact.
Then again, I don't know what kind of laws Guy has to follow.
Gaia
laws
is
of
there, like,
nature,
is there,
which she dictates.
she is both the
Ha
she is both the guardian of the earth and their legal guardian.
I guess so. She's the guardian.
I mean, Captain Planet basically arrests guys frequently. It's like, how does Captain Planet get away with that, huh?
No, he doesn't. That's why they're always doing more shit.
Because he
just
doesn't
puts-
actually have the
he puts them
You're
in a-
right.
jurisdiction.
You're right. This
Yeah,
would be
he
better
puts them in
off
a
if he could
box
put
and just
people in
leaves them in the
jail.
woods.
Yeah. How do these
there's no
people keep getting out of jail? Because some of them are like, oh, you just
Because they never go
Well,
to
heck,
jail.
like there's an episode.
Because they're have you seen any of these characters go through a trial?
No. That's the fucked up thing. Like, okay, one episode we didn't watch as part of this block, but we've watched previously
I know what you're gonna
involved
bring up.
Dr. Blight hijacking a space shuttle with the president on it and sending them to Venus to crash.
Yeah,
and
she
die.
sent George Bush Sr. to Venus.
Yeah, to die.
Yeah.
That happened.
Elmer, this
Like,
is
this-
going to be quite a journey.
Yeah, that's about how it went.
You know, George Bush Sr.'s like, oh, greenhouse gases, huh? What the fuck? That's basically it.
You should watch that one, Neeksy. I think you'd get a real good kick out of it.
And the
'cause there's some
timeline
shit.
of it
we
made
have
no
other ones to
sense.
watch. So they're in this forest. He's like, I need you to help keep my dad from murdering all these wolves.
And then the
Well,
robot
now
wolf
that
showed
we're in
up.
the middle of nowhere, everyone else gets attacked by the wolf. The thing that should definitely have killed this wolf is the earth swallows it. He uses the earth ring, like it's crushed inside the earth. Like there's no air.
I
there's no
thought
pocket.
the Earth ring didn't work on it because he tried
No,
using
it did,
No, he
and
traps it in a
then
hole.
the ring stops working.
Well, it's a fucking Terminator. What do you expect?
Yeah, so it's a Terminator wolf with like liquid metal skeleton.
No, he
And,
doesn't.
but except for the fact that its head got shot earlier, so its like circuits are all fucked up.
It's also that's key for how it acts later when it starts attacking the eco guys or the bad guys. But then the fact that it also exposed kind of ruins the whole ruse part of it. Like that wrapped up immediately. It was immediately obvious that it was a robot. This corresponded pretty close to when Terminator 2 was coming out, didn't it?
Probably. I mean, considering this was like what,
You know what? I can
1994.
even fact check that. I've got it all open.
Nice.
You Terminator
So-
2 immediately open. You're always there.
It's the one window that just it never sleeps. He
Okay.
has to constantly.
July 1st, 2000 or 1991 was Terminator 2. So
And
wow,
Night
yeah,
of
this
the
is
Wolf
well
was
after.
December 5th, 1992.
Yeah.
so it was like a year later. Okay.
Yeah, this was when it aired.
Oh, so it was probably produced like earlier. Yeah.
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 That lines up.
So they get Mati uses the ring power to get the wolves to escape their pen because all the hunters are going to go try to kill them. The wolves then arrive and attack the robot wolf. Apparently, they know enough to attack the oil lines in like the haunches, because that's what's been killing Captain Planet because he can't, you know.
Well, you see, wolves are coursing predators. They chase after animals as they run, and so they are inclined towards attacking the haunches in order to disable their prey.
Well, I mean
That
that's
was more
true.
factful than like most of this episode. Bam.
It would be
What-
nice if they actually pointed out that fact because this seems oddly that they have an odd collective intelligence because like
Oh, no,
search
that
the
makes
pen
no
and see the
sense.
hole and then like the wolves break apart and all look for a hole and then one of them finds it and alerts the rest and they all
Say they
single
broke
file.
apart like they're made of nanomachines or something.
No, I mean as a group they just break up.
Yes.
It's like okay, you search here, we're gonna come together and figure this all out, guys. So top. You know, it's like that's...
Are you implying that one of those wolves is Kermit the Frog?
I was.
No, that's more like this.
Do they work in like a 1920s carnival?
Yes.
Well, I mean, maybe Monty...
One of them was a carnival
okay,
barker.
I mean,
guess.
Monty can use his heart ring to essentially network people. Maybe he was like networking all the wolves. Like he was a big LAN. This is like a LAN network here. He was landing all those.
I guess, but either way, I guess wolves have collective intelligence like bees do.
Sure.
Yeah,
Facts.
Although I don't think they can do math.
well, they can.
Either way, so the wolves attack the oil lines, which means that Captain Planet can actually fight it now.
And he turns into a fucking cage.
He turns it into a cage with no bottom, so they could just like tip it over and it'll
Yeah,
be
they're
free.
gonna get out and just do more shit next week.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
And
that's what
then
happens. He
They
never
also
calls the
never
cops.
explain the cattle deaths with no visible injuries, and the crush that
Lasers.
Mati has on the girl is just never brought up again.
Laser eyes. We're going.
No, like, oh, I like you, Mati, but you know, I'm more in love with my job, or
I love my horse. Could you be
They're
like my horse?
13. They're 13, Neeksy.
Oh
Don't-
yeah, but it's
you
never
want them
brought up
making
again.
out? That's gross. Don't
It's
be like
a
that.
hanging plot thread. It's
Oh,
just needs
the
to be
show's
It's an
still
resolved.
episodic show from
Who fucking
1992.
cares? There is exactly one plot line in it, and it is Sting.
All right,
I
so
was dancing so
let's
close
move on
today.
to I think the craziest episode
I don't know.
of the
I've
ones I've
seen-
seen.
That last one's
yeah.
pretty crazy, but go on.
True. Well, I think this one put me on the wrong foot just because this is the season 6 intro, and it is
Oh.
probably the worst, most 90s thing I've ever seen. It has bad rapping, needless like motion graphics shit, and a celebration of gross and grotesque body humor where a character belches and they have to spell out the word burp in big purple letters. And there's this like a random disembodied green mouth with really bad teeth singing this intro. And it's just like it is so many steps down in terms of just the visual quality of what the original opening is. It's amazing.
If it helps, season 6 is when Hanna-Barbera started doing it.
Yeah, so this episode is called A Good Bomb is Hard to Find. And this one starts off, I'm guessing it's in somewhere in Lower East Asia.
Mhm.
Yeah, Southeast Asia
Um,
somewhere.
Southeast Asia, and there's minefields, and Dr. Blight is just in her pod ship making a time machine.
Oh, I want to point out that she also put those minefields there just to be a dick.
Yep, and she's also implied that she's built time machines before this because she's like, "Here's my most newly improved time machine." It's like, this is not your first one.
No,
I mean,
she had to
it-
go
it-
back in time to help Goku with his heart disease.
I guess so. And so it in this episode, I mean, okay, so let's talk time travel shit. Like, I don't want to get too much
Oh
into
boy,
it,
I
but, like,
love doing this.
this whole thing. Just at least let's talk about how it happens in this one. So immediately she builds the time machine, and that causes the future self to meet the past self.
Right.
But the future self would already have the time machine, so she could have just sent herself back at any time.
Well,
anyway.
she needed the return conduit. You need 2 phones to make a phone
Also, maybe future her got hit in the head at some point and then forgot this entire encounter.
call.
I guess so, except the fact that she mentions that, oh, I know what you're thinking because I already thought it. So she should know how this works out
Right.
already. And so, and also,
Well, it
her
hasn't,
future
it
self is
hasn't
basically
happened for her yet.
She still has the same haircut, and her voice is auto-tuned for some reason.
Yeah, because how else would they make her sound old?
That's how the future works. Yeah, the future, everybody's auto.
Everybody has a robot voice.
Yeah.
And so, and also
Hell
instead
yeah.
of, what's the guy computer's name?
Mal,
Mal.
voiced
He
by Tim
has,
Curry.
yep, who is probably the best character in this episode.
At every episode, in fact.
Yeah, in every episode that he's in. He instead of him, she has this floating compact mirror Is it Gal?
It's Gal.
Yeah,
why
and
not?
so basically there's a whole bunch of things of him wanting to just fuck the floating girl computer.
Well, okay, no. First off, they hate each other. Later, they want to fuck.
Yeah.
Because Gal's like, I'm a superior model to you from the future, and the Mal's like, I'm Tim Curry. I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So they mentioned the minefields thing, and they're like, from the most recent war.
Well, also, again, Dr. Blight put much more mines there for some reason.
Yeah. Well, but they mention it like when the
Sure.
Planeteers land, like they go like, "Oh, how'd you get your leg blasted off?" It's like, from the most recent war. It's like,
Vietnam.
which one is that?
I mean, that is an issue in, like, say, Vietnam and, stuff that.
Oh no, it
there's lots
is,
of
but it would
mines
be
there,
nice if they
so.
at least just mentioned
They
the
don't want to
country.
regionalize these typically because that has.
I guess, but it
political
would at least be
concerns.
like, it would give some kind of cause to think about. But anyway, the future version of Dr. Blight is really angry because in 20 years, everything is really peaceful. And I go, oh man, the people writing this show are like, I have to weep for how little they knew I was going to come in less than 10 years.
Everything's so much good about the environment and stuff.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This episode aired 20 years ago in 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So yeah,
Things
less
gonna
Oh
than
my
10
God.
years.
3 months.
But again, think about this. So when this episode aired, it was probably what, 96?
It was 95.
95. So think about just 6 or 7 years later.
Oh god.
Yeah. So like these people, it's like, wow, what must it be like to live with this type of optimism?
I mean, what did they actually say? Did they actually say 20 years?
Something
Yeah,
like that.
because like something like
Jeez.
whatever time she's from is like 20 years in the future. It's like, oh dear God.
Yeah.
And so this episode actually is there's one surprisingly accurate bit where it talks about how many of the countries that have nuclear material, it's really poorly guarded.
Sure.
Yeah, it
and
is.
sometimes not guarded at all. I'm like, no, this is a real thing. I mean, like, look at some of the stuff that I think even Rachel Maddow has talked about this type of stuff. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of really poorly guarded, like, nuclear material in certain parts of, like, Eastern Europe and parts of Russia where, like, yeah, there's no guards. Like, people are just lucky they might not know where it was located.
Yeah. I mean, the general structure of this episode is weird because, okay, it opens up with Dr. Blight and her future self saying, like, we need to make some money. Hey, let's go make a nuclear bomb and go sell in the past. Okay.
And not just any nuclear bomb, the most effective, even super polluting nuclear bomb.
Hell yeah. So basically that's like that. So they go to Eastern Europe, find a random truck just moving some plutonium around, and as this truck is driving at speed, they just float outside the window and like, hey, honey, you want to go have a sex with me, Russian man? And Russian man's like, oh, I'm driving at like 50 miles per hour. I won't think of the fact that you're right outside my window for some reason. Yeah.
And I'm driving sensitive, like, state secret material.
Yeah, I'll have sex with you, American crazy woman. And the older one's like, pull over, I'll shoot you with my gun. And then that's basically the end of that scene. And then that's basically like somehow the Planeteers, I think they find out about this is kind of what happens.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I think there is a big accident. Like, the ship goes down because
Oh,
Mal
that's
is
right.
on it.
I'm sorry.
And because so the Planeteers are in this devastated village. Wheeler's like, man, where can I get a hamburger around here in this devastated village in Southeast Asia? Hey girl, hey new friend whose leg and friend were blown up by a landmine.
Yeah.
He's taking it in very good spirits.
And so they find her ship because it crash lands before they go back in time. And of course,
Okay.
they go back in time to
Hold
sell
on.
this thing.
We're missing a key detail here because they basically have it where their ship also starts to crash because of time vortexes.
Yeah, there's a time vortex
Right.
just happening.
Yeah, you're forgetting about that. There was a thing where their ship starts to crash and they end up crashing in like Eastern Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's where this happened, and then then the Russians accuse them of like stealing the bombs or stealing their nuclear material, and then Captain Planet basically like just blows off these like soldiers committing crimes and helps them all escape, And there's like, oh, there's a time vortex around here, and they mentioned 2 Dr. Blights. Huh, that's weird. And then then they find the ship, the Russian. They find whatchamacallit, Dr. Blight's
Dr.
ship.
Blight's ship, yeah.
They find that in the line field, and with the help of the girl who had her leg blown off with the landmines.
That's right.
And then they find Mal in there, and they're like, "Yo, Mal, we'll fucking murder you unless you send us back into the past."
This is where Yi does the first thing that she's ever been useful. She puts like an EMP bomb on the back of him, saying, "Hey, if we're not back in 90 minutes, you're dead. So you're gonna have to keep this whole thing operational."
Also,
Like, wow, all right.
I'm like, these are our heroes. Like that. Wow,
also-
Yi does not fuck around.
Also, I want to correct ourselves. Her name is Gi. Like,
Yeah, that's what
like,
I said, Gi.
like the thing that Goku wears. A Gi.
Yes, a
Right,
Gi.
right.
What did you think we were saying?
A Yi?
No,
Oh,
Gi.
sorry, I was mispronouncing it.
Yep.
So, but wow, she does not fuck around.
No.
Like she's
No, she
just like,
doesn't.
wow,
Stone
wow.
cold.
Like she also knows how to make an EMP bomb. Why
Yeah.
do they have EMP bombs?
They're hyper competent when they want to be.
I guess so. So they decide to go back to, I guess, a different timeline than ours, where Hitler had a really awesome handlebar mustache.
No, he
Right.
had a fucking Fu Manchu.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
He's
That's right.
It's like they combined the German terror with the yellow peril and made something that's even more powerful than either of them.
Dracula.
And I also like how she demonstrates the effectiveness of the bomb by just blowing up a town the distance for no reason.
And they're like, "Oh, you blew up that town." Yeah, they probably evacuated because fucking Hitler's here.
Yeah.
It's
Here's
fine.
the
You've
thing
never
is-
heard of that town.
I know Captain Planet used to make a whole bunch of like really bad puns and jokes in these episodes,
And he does.
but in this episode in particular, it's like he got hit in the head with a box set of Full House VHS tapes.
All right. So
Like,
does that count
that
as a
is-
pollution, and that's why it hit him?
Yeah, no, that's what it is, because he's also weak to and also he's weak to hatred.
It does.
Yeah.
Is Hitler cousin Joey here or something?
No, he just makes really bad jokes. Like it's in the one-liners and everything. It's just the worst of 90s sitcom writing with this episode for some reason. He's worse than usual. Like I want Hitler to win.
I mean, there's a
Oh,
very good
come on.
reason
In
why
comparison.
he's not going at full strength there. I mean, he's looking over the mountain and seeing some shit you don't want to see. He can see that.
Yeah. So basically, the whole thing is that the Dr. Blights want to sell to the Axis powers, namely Italy and Germany. They're basically Italy and Germany are bidding on this, basically trying to get the atomic secrets. And Hitler's basically like, "You're bidding against me," to the Italians, and the Italians are like, and
Yeah.
it basically,
Oh, and then he decides to
Historically
take it
accurate.
anyway and just arrest arrest everybody else there.
yep, which is not,
Because what are you gonna do?
yeah, it's not.
Okay.
I have
I can't
tons of
believe
soldiers.
Hitler
You're
would
just two old
double-cross us
ladies
like
in a
this.
floating compact. What are you gonna do to
Yeah,
me?
yeah, it's exactly. It's like, oh, I can't believe Hitler is fucking evil. Who knew? And then the Planeteers show up with their crippled friend, and they're basically like, oh, let's call Captain Planet because the Americans are bombing this castle, and also Hitler's here. And basically, Captain Planet shows up and he's like,
Also-
oh god, Hitler's so evil that it's sapping my energy. How can so much hate be in one individual?
That
Man, he
happened.
has a lot of really terrible weaknesses for a superhero.
Man, that's how superheroes work. Because he has like a fucking he can do everything else. He needs some weaknesses, okay? But
No, I understand, but his weaknesses happen to be just really lame ones.
hey,
Yeah.
man, Hitler being your weakness is that's how comics worked in like the DC.
Let me tell you
comics.
what you can do with yellow metal.
Yeah, I mean, but what historically speaking, the DC comics basically justify that the same way. Like, why didn't Superman kill Hitler? Well, because Hitler made like an or was that Marvel Comics that did that, where he made like an anti-superhero field? I think it was DC.
I don't know because I know other things Marvel Comics did with Hitler. So
Oh
Either
man, the
way.
fucking hate monger's great.
yeah. Well,
Either
don't
way-
say that.
He sucks, but he's great.
Either way, Hitler gets, I guess, blown up.
No, he vanishes. He vanishes like out the back door. He-
Right.
He just vanishes out of the scene. So presumably it's him escaping in order to go find his bunker and shoot himself in the head.
Yep. And also, so the crippled girl. No, I don't want to say the word crippled.
Disabled.
Disabled girl writes a note, hands it off to I guess apparently it's her grandparents.
No, it's just a random person that she could tell was somehow from her village. She just knew.
Yep. And saying, hey, warn me. Just me. Okay, I'm not saving my friend Sue. She's dead. I'm fine with that. Just
It's like
warn me about
I've
playing in the
already gotten over
minefield.
it. I don't need to have that come back into my life.
Yep.
I never really liked her all that much. She kept stealing my shoes. Now I can finally wear shoes again. Fuck that girl.
Yes. So in the future her leg is back, but also um they leave Dr. Blight's data about how to build an atomic bomb back in the past accidentally, and an American soldier picks it up and goes, this has some really interesting information. We better
should
send it
get
back
this-
home.
We gotta get this guy
Implying
to the
that this
labs.
is the impetus for the bomb that's eventually dropped on Hiroshima.
Yeah, man, Oppenheimer just couldn't quite get there.
Weird
then I
messaging.
think-
They don't really call attention to it at all, but it's some weird messaging.
There's
right
no
there.
reason
why
for
would
that to be there.
Exactly. Like, why would you bring that even up? Like, without having someone go, oh my god, Dr. Blight succeeded in causing a harm to humanity after all. Jesus.
Yeah, and the whole like the girl who is disabled because of the landmines. The message there that she specifically just tells her parents to tell her to, her ancestors to be more careful around landmines. That's some weird like messaging there, kind of like her being like, I'm gonna get mine here. Whereas there's like other like she could have saved her friend's life. It's weird.
Or she could have tried to prevent, like, some kind of, the conflict that creates the landmines.
But she doesn't
from
even try that. She's just like, oh
Nope.
hey, my benefit here. It's me. This is what I get out of this situation.
Yep. And then I don't know if you guys saw the same PSAs at the end, but this one had one about kids and gun death.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you know what? It's really depressing. Is about almost 20 years since this PSA aired. Gun deaths have not changed at
Yeah,
all. And in
I
fact,
didn't
there's
wanna
been more
comment on
school
that one.
shootings than ever before.
I just didn't want to make fun of that one because it's like, oh,
I don't
want
to make fun of it. It's just, again, it's the depressing thing. Oh, in 20 years, the future is peaceful. There's no war. It's like, oh, I really don't want to
By the
break
way,
it to
kids are
these...
shooting each other.
Hey man.
Yeah, I don't want to
themselves.
break it to these poor idealist
Yeah, I don't know
writers.
what they were thinking with that. The fact, like like the history of like that's actually like one thing. Like I always think about it is like when World War I happened. They were thinking about what they were going to call it, right? And eventually, like a bunch of historians decided that they were going to call it the First World War because, let's face it, it was inevitable that there was going to eventually be another world war at some point because the history of the world is the history of war. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yes.
never going to stop. It'd be awfully nice if it did, but war will always be there, unfortunately, and it's
War.
awfully
War never
optimistic for them
changes.
to think that it's going to go away. Yes. So I don't know. Like the messaging here is weird because it felt like they had an episode that they wanted to be about landmines, but instead we went on this completely unrelated plot about selling atomic secrets to the Nazis. in
Look,
the
they got
past.
Hitler involved. You can't just
And
have
hey,
Hitler as
they
a B plot,
saved
man.
one person from a landmine, I guess.
Like I have to imagine, like if they had the Hitler plot and they just like, oh, that'd be a weird episode that we could do. Like that was like it wasn't one of their story. And in order to justify the educational quotient, they put in the landmine thing. Like, hey, landmines are bad.
Neeksy, I want to go back to that. I want to say they didn't even save one person from a landmine. They saved part of a person from a landmine.
Very true.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So let's go to the next one because you know what? We haven't had enough stupid time travel.
Nope.
I've lost my Mayan.
Oh, we watched this one.
So it's a story of human sacrifice, time travel wells, and the return of Jason.
yeah, like why
I love
is
Jason.
I love that Jason's a returning character for some reason. Like
He's
of all
great.
things, like oh
To
hey,
explore a well,
yeah. I mean that well.
just a well in the
To be fair,
ruins
it's
of-
an old Mayan sacrificial well, so there might be neat shit in there. Like he pulls up a skull at the beginning. That's cool.
Oh, they also get attacked by a skull when they fall in there and get stuck in a whirlpool.
That takes them back into the past.
Skeletor's
So let's
there.
first of all, Wheeler fucks up again by leaving his ring behind because he was, I guess, got a bunch of shit all over his hands
He
and
does-
he has to wash them.
He does that a
Yeah,
lot.
it's
Like
like-
there's actually a lot of episodes that specifically revolve around the fact of Wheeler lost his ring. Like we watched one earlier with the old talking trash episode involves his ring being stolen and then reappearing on his hand because they forgot to remove it from the animation. But then he got
Yes,
it
I was
back
about to
anyways.
say, like, throughout this one, there's a bunch of shots where they very clearly have it in his hand.
Yeah,
And also, apparently, he wears the ring on his index finger.
yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes he wears it on a necklace for some reason. Like there's also an episode early on that we didn't watch for this, but me and Red watched pretty recently, where Wheeler gets like very bad, like weak ass, like third degree burns, I think, and then he takes off his ring for some reason, and then a kid
Yep.
steals it, and then sets
So-
fire to an Autobot. That happens, but
Yep. So Jason gets stuck inside this well, and so they decide to jump into this really gross, like, dead body filled with nitrogen and moss and crap. And so then they get attacked by a whirlpool and a human skeleton, and not just a regular whirlpool, it's a time whirlpool that only works because Jason's there.
Jason is magical and wonderful, and he can do anything that he puts his heart to. Too bad his
Yep.
heart's a robot's heart, and it can only be put to science.
With a squirt gun. And so
Yeah.
they end up going into the past when the Mayan civilization was still around and they didn't know about crop rotation. So I guess they were just seeing impending doom. And they run into this kid that looks very similar like Mati and has the same voice, but is apparently able to speak English.
Look, man, would you really have liked this show better if they had spent like 15 minutes on like language issues?
No, I just
if
thought
it,
it was
or if
funny.
they went all like me, Tarzan, you, Jane about this sort of shit. Like, it'd been fucking terrible.
No, I just think it's funny.
It is funny. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and in general, this episode is also very anti-religion.
Yeah. I
I
don't
think
know
that's
if there's
fair.
even a message in this episode, really.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a message, but it's like,
it's
well,
more it's more anti-conservatism, sort of. Like, it's because like oh, this kid, what's the name of this other kid? Like, not Mati, what's his name?
I don't even remember.
I'm gonna call him Carl. So
Carl.
here, basically Carl's family wants to be more intelligent about how they're using like agricultural practices and like the environment.
Again, crop rotation.
Yeah, and,
like, how
then
to
the
do it
priest is
correctly.
all like, "Fuck that! We've been doing this for thousands of years. I'ma sacrifice you with this boulder."
to the gods. Yeah. Well, no, that's what I mean. But is that like, yes, I understand that it's anti like authority in the sense that like people should be individualistic and
Well,
kind
I
of
think it's
speak
less-
out for
it's-
their beliefs. Well, speak out to their beliefs at least. But in general, they're like, yeah, this is a pretty religious figure. Like, he's not just like some kind of businessman or politician in this case.
Sure, but it's more like the fact that they're going against, conservatism in
Oh,
terms of
yeah.
environmental practices, which is, it's a weird messaging because the way it's framed has almost no alignment with like the modern sense, because the end of that episode doesn't end really with them convincing the guy. They run into the fucking woods, and then apparently decades later, we never see it. They manage to get back there and somehow reform things slightly, because we see like, oh, we found this thing, and you can see Carl on it with the Planeteer logo. I guess he managed to somehow work things out.
No,
Hooray.
the line is, "Wow, they made a difference after all," says Mati, looking at a new drawing on the ruined civilization around him.
Yeah.
And it's like, and here's the, well, Mati has a couple good lines in there where he's like, "I wish people were more like you, who are willing to stand up for their beliefs," says Mati, after being rescued from a fanatic who's standing up for what he believes.
I mean, yeah, the messaging there is a little weird.
It's not well done, but so in general, so they introduce a bunch of random concepts in this. So you get a lot of people who are mistaking Mati for this kid, which is weird because the parents and the Planeteers go like, "Wait, like that's obviously not Mati," but I guess everybody else does not recognize that this kid doesn't look the same.
the racist
So that's
against
that's
their own
really, yeah,
race.
like they're racist. They think all teenage boys from South America look alike, apparently,
Hey,
except for the
hey,
Planeteers
hey,
and that kid's parents.
Hey, Central America.
Right.
They're different.
That you're right. So, and then they have this other thing where they introduce this concept of time compression. Because they're like, "Wow, like how long have we been gone? Like, I don't know, you've been gone over like 3 minutes." So they make a reference to that because they have to go back to get their ring.
Yep.
And in order to do that, they have to have the same number of people and Jason to get it to work. So they bring
That's
back
the
Carl.
magic ritual.
Yeah, bring back Carl with them. And so, but again, they do this mention. It's like, "How long have we been gone?" It's like, wow, only 3 minutes. That's weird. That implies that while they're off searching for this goddamn ring, like Mati should be dead by now. Like considering like the speed.
Oh,
of
he's
the
been dead for
events
thousands of years.
I guess so.
It's
And
great.
so, but the best part is the Carl being in the future. He's like, "Wow, I really want to see how the future's like." But then he learns about like the horrors of late stage capitalism, and its
Then he
effects on the
gets
third world when he meets two urchin children who are like,
then
"We
he
can't
gets
afford clothing and food."
then he gets sprayed by pesticide, and he gets
Yeah, and he gets
smallpox,
kicked
and
out of a restaurant,
So
and
much,
he's
so
like,
many of those though, like so much of that is like really just kind of role eyesy kind of like examples.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh come on, guys! Like, really, this is how you're like, oh, I need to improve the past so this future doesn't turn on. Like, son, it doesn't work that way. Like, good fucking luck. But like, also the
it's like
examples that they
you're gonna get ruined by like
also
foreign
like
soldiers bringing over diseases and guns, right?
like,
Like
let me
that's
tell
what's
you
gonna
a
to be
kill
little
you.
fair,
story.
their own civilization fucking sucked. Okay, like yes,
Yes.
like let's be real here for a second. The Spanish were fucking awful, but at the same time, like
Oh yeah.
Central American civilizations were fucking fucked up.
Yes.
Like we were talking about like two
Like
like fucked up forces meeting in the middle, and then just like everybody dies.
yeah.
But
Basically,
anyways,
no good. It's a shit NATO. It's a shitty tornado.
well,
So
that's the real world, man. It's a big old shit NATO.
Ugh.
But like, anyways, but like the specific examples of like how they're getting the message to this kid here is just like the most kind of like roll eyesy, like kind of like, oh, this is how you're approaching this. This is like the cliff notes of Captain Planet, kind of. Yeah, he gets in like 5 minutes,
yeah, it's great.
and then Mati is being like sacrificed, and then eventually they bring Captain Planet. It's
And then Captain Planet causes the fall of the Mayan Empire.
Yeah, I like it because like what is it? Mati is they're like they're being killed because they think about the environment. Mati's like, well, they're not wrong. Like
Yeah.
he's actually kind of honest there because the parents are like please leave him out of it. He's not involved. And Mati's like, no, they're not wrong. So I'm willing to die here too, I guess.
that episode was really good for all the overdrawn ways that they try sacrificing them. Like let's roll a boulder onto the top of this pit
snakes.
full
They
of
did that-
snakes.
Yeah, full of, well, the snakes don't work because he uses the heart ring.
Because he remembered he had a heart ring.
And it's like,
Yeah.
'cause
Well, here's the other thing. So the heart ring works on animals, but not people, I guess.
no,
Except for when it does.
except for when it does.
But we haven't seen him use it once on any of these
He
villains or
talks to
anything
people
else.
through it.
Well, no, but I mean to actually get them to
He can't mind control people, but he can like show them like images, like let me convey my feelings to you. Like he can do that. He does that on
Well,
occasion.
yeah. So as basically, he has the power of empathy,
Exactly. That is his power, and
but he
empathy is the
can't make
greatest
other
force of
people
all.
feel empathy.
No, well, he can. He can show them stuff to try to induce it, but he can't.
Yeah, but he
force
doesn't
people.
even try, and he doesn't even try here.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that's because if he used his ring to its full extent, the episodes would be pretty boring. Because if you could just give everybody empathy, a lot of
Yes.
shit would be less fucked up.
Yes.
But anyways, like it's like the overweight, like that boulder. How much time
Yes.
does it take them to reset that every time?
They have to
I don't
dig a new
know. And
pit.
the thing is the boulder doesn't even fit in the hole, so all it does is just traps them down there.
Yeah, like that's like
It doesn't crush them. Like if the boulder was the same size as the hole, yeah, it would go down and
do they have to just like the priest have to get like hey Steve, get out your crowbar. We need to roll the boulder back.
They've
up
got a
again.
committee that goes that. All the tax my dollars go to it.
Or they just like wait till everyone's possibly dead, then just break the boulder open and just take the rocks out and make a new boulder.
You can't.
Boulders are easy to make, right? Either way, it's dumb. And Captain Planet is, because they don't have pollution, and I guess they aren't evil enough, he's okay. Because they basically just throw a whole bunch of spears and they just bounce off him like nothing.
Well, yeah.
So, and he saves
I've seen
the
that
day.
dude turn into a tree, so.
Yeah. So he saves the day, and they're like, wait, why don't you come back to the future with us, and maybe it'll be better. It's like, no, I'm gonna stay back here and fight the power, I guess. And they're like, well, you know what? We're so glad that you stand up for your beliefs. Good luck, even though like in our future, you guys were long decimated by things outside of your control.
The same,
Also-
Bye.
Also,
it's a shame he got smallpox when his little priest
Yeah.
came into the future.
also, it's not like they
Enjoy
could've-
the death pimples.
It's not like they could have brought them with anyways because of that rule of 5 that they kept on going on about.
But that was only their theory.
Sure, I guess
They don't know that.
Yeah, like all they know is that Jason is there, and that's apparently what causes it.
Jason is wonderful and magical.
Yes, he is.
The magical time traveling robot friend.
But yeah, the overall messaging of this episode was really dumb. Like,
what was the message?
You should
stand
think
up for your
about the
beliefs, but then
environment.
isn't
Hey,
the other
maybe your
side?
ancestors shouldn't be shit.
Yeah, I guess it's like
That's what it was. I'm sorry.
The Mayans were terrible, I guess.
That's apparently what the ep thing was.
It's basically like, hey,
These aren't my beliefs, but they're apparently the beliefs of Ted Turner and the Hanna-Barbera Corporation.
I thought the message in the end was very nihilistic. It's like, you could try to make a personal difference, and maybe all you'll get is a carving in the wall in the sides of the
Yeah,
ruined
but then some guy will
civilization.
stab you.
Yeah, but the carving will be in the side of the ruins on the side of the civilization. That's as much as you're going to accomplish on an individual level. That's the message. Everything is pointless.
yeah, it's like that the Ozymandias poem. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Except for like naturalism, you know. So,
So here we get to the last episode, and I don't even know. So it's called Planeteers Under Glass.
Planeteers Under Grass would be a completely different episode.
I'd enjoy that. Would be a much
if
more
you know
fun
what I'm
episode.
saying, under grass. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
We mean weed. It's a
Oh, now I
weed
get it.
joke.
It's a weed joke, guys. Let's go on.
Cannabis sativa is otherwise known as marijuana. It's used to things called weed.
You can use it to mind
That's the
Bitcoins.
joke. Anyway, this episode opens up with actually a pretty cool intro with the computer dude going through the power lines. Like, the animation and design there was actually really cool. And there's a whole bunch of random production design things in this episode that are pretty interesting out of nowhere. Like, it's a really grim episode with some really fucked up imagery in general.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Blight sends Mal to this other scientist whose name I can't remember. She's a paraplegic of some sort, and who has a floating
Ryan
chair.
Sends Tim Curry.
Yeah, and she spies over this doctor's shoulder, and almost on some level, it sounds like she was getting off on it because she's like, "This is almost as good as reaching out and touching someone."
Yeah.
And she says it in that really creepy tone. It's like, oh my god. And all she really does with this is she gets this doctor to pick the Planeteers as guinea pigs for her next experiment.
Yeah.
Which I guess is evil enough. And this is the episode where they actually have the fucking monkey in it.
Yeah.
Of the ones we watched, yes.
Yeah, of the ones we watched. Like, I mean, I was surprised I hadn't seen it before this.
Look, Frank Welker is a busy man. He can't be called in to voice a monkey every week.
Hey, he was busy.
Sometimes
doing
he's got to
really
voice a
terrible
cartoon
wolf
dog or
noises.
maybe a dinosaur or something.
He did. Those wolves were terrible sounding in that episode. So this whole experiment is, I made a computer model of an basically accelerated time on a fictional kind of like geofront of some sort to see like how the effects of like what humanity does to it, how fast and where things will go, and just like essentially it shows some kind of exponential destruction.
And they show this by having these weird, fucked up hybrid animals going around that are just fucking weird, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's like It's like playing Mother 3, like when you start fighting like the animal hybrid monsters.
It's supposed to be they're combinations of things that fill the same niches in the environment. Which is a weird way to do it.
It's a simplified
but they end up
model
looking
or
like
whatever.
Dr. Seuss creatures. It's very strange.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea is, well, I can't monitor this simulation on the outside, so we're going to go inside this computer simulation where we can also possibly die.
And it's like, of course, it's gonna be locked down because Mal fucks with shit because that's what Mal does.
Yep. And also, thank goodness nobody else works in this lab because there is no security whatsoever other than like a door code.
Yep, no oversight at all.
Because she just walks in with no problem. Like, you'd think like with this person with this type of facility, she would have to have more than one person working here, let alone possibly government secrets at this level.
Sure.
And also, this is where we find out that Guy can't swim.
Really? You're right.
Yeah, she gets in the water and she's like, help! She can't swim. Like I think Wheeler has to save her.
Water.
I know.
Yes, that's
And in the intro, they show her surfing. It's really
she
weird.
She swims in all the other episodes. Is what she does. She's water.
Yeah, in this one, she's like, I can't. No, it's just weird.
I think it Maybe it was acid water. She lost the light.
They just forgot.
I thought they implied like it was like polluted water. Like
they didn't program that into the simulation.
I guess swimmable water.
Look, I'm sorry. We put this program.
It's the water in the first Mario Brothers game. They're just a pit. So either way, it's just a really depressing simulation. Like the production, and here's the interesting thing: is so like, whenever they show that a creature has, the last of its species dies, it creates like a little totem of it. Like you see a stone version of it.
It's fucking
and then
rad.
you also get these really interesting like towers that show up. So like the design that's called the human factor and industrialism is like a really macabre.
Oh, those were the
kind of.
Yeah, Dr.
It's really
Blight
interesting. Like I kind of thought like, wow, there's some really interesting kind of brutal production design going into this. Like the human statues with the buildings that like the spew out waste and pestilence upon the landscape, and just the way the impose. I mean, again, pretty good art for that.
It's
for that
good
part.
art, but the actual animation itself is not very good. Like the actual design is interesting.
That's what I mean by production design.
The hybrid animals they're functional for their purpose, but they're not.
Oh, but they're not animated
elegant.
well.
They're also
not animated well.
Well, biologically, yeah, they would be complete failures.
Well, sure. I mean, more like in terms of design. Like, I bet if I asked you, Red, and I gave you like, okay, here's 3 animals I want you to combine into a drawing, I bet you could immediately crack out, better examples of what they did.
Yeah.
Just because, like, a better sense for like, oh, animals look like this. I bet I could interestingly combine them like this. Like, this looks like they didn't actually like storyboard or like kind of concept out like what it's going to look like, and just had the different animators just do it out on the fly. Like, oh, put in
look
animal
at you criticizing 12. This, whereas I was like, how come they can't resolve a simple crush arc for an episode? Think hard.
Hey man,
God, Zorak, expecting a bit much from this show, aren't you?
Well, look, man, I'm just in terms of fundamental designs, they just weren't like that interesting. Like it was interesting. It was almost interesting in how bad they were. Like they were weird, but not weird in a great way. But that actually somehow made them better. If you know what I'm saying.
Well, it made them goofily grotesque. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And so here's the other thing. So they're in this simulation. They're trying to collect data, and they go like, well, we're gonna have to leave by this time because then it's gonna be too toxic for like things to live. And the thing is like the end date that they say that is the point of no return in the simulation is the end of the 20th century. So it's good to know that we're just fucked.
Well, we're past that point, so it means.
Well, that's what I mean.
No, that means we managed to get past that point. We somehow altered.
Well,
the
it's also remember that Dr. Blight sped it up so that it would kill everybody inside the thing.
Oh, well, she locked them in there. And so, like, and here's the thing is, I was worried that they didn't have some kind of safeguard.
She did speed it up,
Yeah, but she built in some kind of safeguard, at least, to, like, keep herself from being trapped in there. But she made it put it in a location that's impossible for a paraplegic to ever get there on her own. Yeah. It's like, well, you just have to cross the volcano, the cliffs, the roaring river rapids, and we'll get to a button that's hidden amongst a bunch of rocks that look like other rocks.
I think it's kind of fucked up. She's still.
And then it's like, okay, everybody, split up. And I know we might die in about 5 minutes, but please stop to take more sample data while we're trying to save ourselves.
Yeah, you're right, Red. Like, what the fuck is the fact that, like...
It's like, oh, you could have gave yourself functioning legs.
It's just a simulation, dog, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is a lethal simulation somehow. Like, it's a computer.
Even the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest did that right.
Yep. Oh, and so they also watch, there's a weird, what's the word for it? It's a walrus type of creature that saved the girl from.
That guy.
That's what it is. It saves Guy from drowning.
Yeah,
but then it also dies.
And then they
in
see
the
it later
of the poison.
dying of cancer and tumors right in front of their eyes, and they're like, "It's so hot." It's basically global warming. It's horrifying.
It's fucked up, yeah. It's like kind of like, oh god, it's like every cute sea animal ever dying at the same time. Oh god, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful and digital.
How ugly it was.
And Dr. Blight is like really getting off on this thing because like she's like nihilist to a degree that's like kind of inexplicable.
Like, I love everybody just misery. It's great.
And that everything will die, everything will be X. She's like a Nietzschean nihilist. It's insane. So the safeguard, of course, fails, and they have to use Captain Planet to get out. And I guess they could have called him to start with when
Yep.
they first got locked in there.
Why
But
wasn't
now-
Captain Planet instantly killed by the pollution?
Well, they kind of make him start to, and then it looks like he dies,
But
but then he
then,
doesn't.
but it was all a trick because the Captain Planet's like, oh wait, this is digital. I can just turn into electricity and get the fuck out.
But let's not
Yeah.
forget before
Oh,
they get
yes,
out,
my favorite
we
part.
see the end of the simulation where everything else is dead, and you see the one remaining human tower
Oh.
crumble, and inside it you see a robo-human angel at the end.
Just
What
screaming
the
to the
fuck,
heavens.
Captain Planet, as he dissolves into dust.
It's-
Humans fill the same ecological niche as angels and robots.
It's
great.
fucking great. Like, if this is where the future is going, we're all gonna become fucking horrible flying cyborgs.
I
And
want to
that's
say
great.
he's got a fucking rocket pod on his shoulder too.
That's fucked up. That's great.
It was
We're gonna
weird.
fuck the fucking cyber demon.
It
It's
was
awesome.
kind of it was disturbing.
Someone's gonna shoot us with the fucking BFG. It's gonna be great.
Yep.
Like, they just put that in there as a really brutal parting shot.
It's
I have to
fucking
give 'em-
awesome though.
I
Like,
have to give them the credit where credit is
Sure.
due. Like,
but
wow.
they're giving the opposite image, the opposite message here. Like, I want to be a fucked up robot cyborg angel. That's great. Let's make this happen. Let's pollute more. We'll get there.
So, anyway, Captain Planet saves the day because he can turn into electricity because he can be all of the universal elements.
Yep. Which electricity
Which
is
I
an
guess
element.
he can also be gravity, and he can also be, was it strong force, weak force,
Electromagnetism.
electromagnetism, and then
Gravity.
I can't gravity. Okay, yeah. That's I guess he can.
Look,
do all
I've seen
those.
that dude turn into magnets.
I mean, look,
And
man,
trees.
we all exhibit and possess all those forces in us.
It's great.
It's great. We're all composed of all those things because you see, all fundamental matter have those properties.
That's true. And so here's the other thing. So they make this whole thing about there's the green door and the pink door.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't go in the pink door. I'll explain later. Well, the villain, she tries to run out through the pink door to escape. And she just ends up in a really shitty, like, shovelware video game. And the thing is like, well, what's the difference? So is the pink door just the door to just that game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
The green door was
like-
the door into the simulation.
Huh. You'd think it would just be all the same door and she could just pick whatever she gets shoved into.
Look, man, they had to do the gag at the end, so they just set that up. Like,
They should have had her run into the simulation and immediately die.
no, I mean, they didn't want to go.
Hey, if they're going to go dark,
They
Do
ain't
it.
going that dark, okay? They
Her-
need to have her on for later episodes so she can go, I don't know, stamp a kitten to death or something.
No,
Or
in a later
something.
episode, she's got to sell nukes to Hitler.
Yeah.
Oof.
She never goes to trial. Like, we never see this happen.
No,
Yeah.
but she's just
I mean,
she's
there
trapped
is
in a box in the woods.
We do occasionally actually see Captain Planet like hand dudes off to like the police and shit. That happens occasionally.
Yeah, but they don't have any evidence, so
No.
But see, but I would like to see the whole thing actually be about the fact that because they're wealthy, they can get out of it by just hiring the right lawyers.
Sure, and also, I mean,
That would add a nice message to this. That they're aided and abetted by a corrupt system.
they are weird about about how they handle like how much people know about the Planeteers and Captain Planet. Like sometimes like people have no fucking idea. Then other times it's like the Japanese like people are like oh look it's Captain Planet. Hey
of
Captain
course
Planet.
the Japanese people would know about Captain Planet.
It's like nobody in the U.S. knows about it for some reason, but like overseas, yeah, they hella know about Captain Planet. Like everybody loves them.
I guess they just care more than America about the environment.
I don't know, maybe I don't know, but
Either
it's
way.
weird. So yeah, Captain
Yeah,
Planet.
she just gets trapped in this really crappy game, and looks like they're having fun trying to murder her digitally.
I mean, she
Yeah.
kind of had it coming.
No, I know, but I mean, these are our
Sold
heroes.
nukes
We're
to
supposed
Hitler.
to be. Yeah, no, I know. But then, but not enough to actually, either finish the job or put her in jail directly.
No,
No.
he doesn't have any legal authority.
Yeah, that's the weird thing.
I have more legal authority than Captain Planet does.
It's true.
Me.
Yeah.
It's true.
I'm pretty sure any citizen out there has the same amount of legal authority as Captain
Well,
Planet.
I'm
technically.
military. I literally have more legal authority.
No, yeah, I'm saying more, but I'm saying
even
I'm
especially
saying
in
every citizen
environmental
has
matters.
the
In
same.
fact,
No, I'm just saying that every citizen has the same as him. Not the same as you, but same as
Yeah.
Captain Planet.
I don't get it less because he's not a citizen.
Actually,
anymore.
less because he's not a citizen. Yeah, that's right. So he has less authority
He's a
to do
citizen of
citizens'
the
arrests.
Earth, man.
No, the Captain Planet is the leader of the sovereign citizen movement. Your flag does not have the right number of stripes or stars on it, therefore I can't be charged in this court. Hey, where are you dragging me?
I'm sorry, is that a fringe on your flag? Oh god, what is that fringe made of? Lead? Oh my god!
Yeah. He's like, he does the whole free man of the land argument, where it's like,
That's what I mean.
can't
They
be
call themselves
tried in
sovereign
admiralty
citizens.
courts.
Yes.
He just invokes the secret.
Do you know about jury nullification?
He knows all the secret codes that allows people to get out of being tried by.
Except he does
jury.
it with
And
more
he also knows the
puns.
secret menu to in and out.
Exactly.
That's an exclusive club that no one else can enter.
Oh.
Now we found out why none of them go to jail. They're all sovereign citizens.
Oh god.
Every single time the judge is like, damn it, not again.
Well, except Duke Nukem.
Oh man, fucking Duke Nukem.
So, anyway, this is only 6 episodes of this 113 episode series. I don't know if we're ever going to do all the episodes, but I definitely like to go over a few of them later on.
I mean, if you're not,
Again,
we slowly
but,
are on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
But plug that channel real quick.
Yeah, if you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com, I believe just /Zorak goes on for some reason. Basically, if you go on there should be a playlist that is called Let's Watch Captain Planet. Oh, excuse me. Let's Watch Captain Planet, and you can find the majority of the episodes we've discussed here. The other two that aren't on there are going to be on there eventually. I think we have 18 and soon it's going to be 20 episodes of this show on there of just joking over him. And yeah, this show is fucking weird.
It's really weird, especially when you know things about science.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's so much in there that just like utterly contradicts like the most base scientific research, and then there's just like weird inconsistencies, both internal and just in general.
And yet I can't get so angry at it just because I go like, its heart is in the right place, and it was trying. It just did it in a bad way. So
Zorak
it's like you're angry at a child. It's like, oh, you don't know any better.
Zorak might, in fact, actually break out the physics calculations on sending George Bush to Venus.
That does happen
that's a good one.
in the episode Greenhouse Planet. That does in fact happen. But I mean, there's the science in here. It's like, I don't know how mad I get about it in like the general sense of the fact that it exists. Like, I'm glad it exists in the
again, every once in a while they'll say something smart about, like, let's say they did the whole destabilization of species through introduce things, or the wolf thing. So like every once in a while, like there'll be like a nice little like just a section of like, wow, that's really like good summary of what that concept is.
But the way they approach it is so fucking bad.
Then there's the rest of the episode. So like the Yellowstone thing where it's like, here's a history of like the horrible wolf things, including like showing the traps and dead wolf skeletons everywhere. It's like, that was the history until 1930. It's like, oh my god. It's like, that was actually pretty effective. But then it's sandwiched by magical nonsense.
I mean, okay, here are basically the subjects of the various episodes that we have watched. Me and Red have watched together and have recorded over. I just want to do it as like kind of a general little thing of like, okay, there's one about people wanting to murder sharks because fuck sharks. And it's just literally that. Someone just wanting to murder sharks. There's one where Dr. Blight sends President Bush to Venus in order to...
The greenhouse effect, I guess.
Greenhouse effect. There's the turtle one we just talked about. There's the one about whaling where basically... loot and plunder.
Ambergris, right?
Yeah, no. Loot and plunder's made a thing about making shark or whales into whale meat to sell them to the Japanese. And he's got a license to do so from the Japanese, and it's about a Japanese kid trying to, stop them. And then there's the Mayan one. There's the Send in the Clones one about overpopulation, where Loot and Plunder.
Oh god, that one's great.
Where Loot and Plunder clones a small 8-year-old and then employs them in factories. That happens.
To make weapons.
Happens. To make weapons, by the way. And eventually the solution to this is that they end up cloning seagulls.
Well, let's not get
hold on. Okay,
no.
They don't clone the seagulls. They call the seagulls.
Sure,
But the solution is they beat the clone machine in half and turn it inside out to make it an uncloned machine.
Okay,
I
sure.
spoiled it.
Wait,
I don't
they
care.
undo human life.
Yes, exactly. That
They
happened.
are murdering these children.
Like I said, I'm giving the broad picture. This does not ruin discussing it later, okay? There's a creep from the deep where it's literally just basically the turtle episode again, but like giant mutated clams.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's no horsing around where Hoggish Greedley threatens to eat Mati, and also he eats 12 ponies. He eats 12 ponies, and he somehow bought these ponies off of just Native Americans.
That one's got some really weird commentary on Native Americans and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
reserve stuff. It's fucking weird. There's that. There's the wolf one. There's the frog one where Dr. Blight creates tornadoes to steal all the Pacific Northwest's frogs. There's Population Bomb where Wheeler ends up in a world entirely comprised of rat men.
They
tiny
look like
rat,
the Littles.
like the Littles, but they're rat men, and then this rat Atlantis ends up sinking because of overpopulation and because they're rats, and it's all a dream. Spoilers! Meltdown syndrome, where Captain Planet throws a nuclear reactor into the sun.
Yeah. Literally hucks it into the sun.
Planetary Under Glass we just talked about. There's the one where Hoggish Greedley keeps trying to take the Amazon River dolphin's eyes to make amulets out of them because they're cursed. There's the wonderful one where they go to Louisiana and basically just
they're hypnotizing and kidnapping bears.
They're kidnapping bears and putting them on planes to ship them to the circus. And the way that the Planeteers solve this is through witchcraft, like through a voodoo witch.
Oh my god.
And the wonderful episode of off-roading.
My favorite one.
Off-roading in the middle of the fucking Arizona desert, and just the desert keeps changing old landscapes constantly, and it's just quit off-road hogging, because Hoggish Greedley made a giant hog thing that just belches up smoke. And then the big clam up, which is polluted clams deliberately being polluted by him. Meanwhile, Mati keeps imagining that he's in a noir film, and it's fucking dumb.
Yes, that's the one with the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the Littlest Planeteer that was the last one.
It's one of those mini ones where it's it's the Shrunken episode.
No.
That's the frog episode.
That's the frog episode, which also involves, by the way, that frog episode also involves Wheeler having a nude Linka in his pocket at the end because he's a fucking creep.
Oh my god.
And also, the Littlest Planeteer is about a little kid stealing Wheeler's ring and setting fire to fucking trains.
Oh my god.
The show, it's the message is this is not deliberately picking up the weirdest episodes. This is every episode is like this.
Yeah.
There's another episode which we haven't watched, but other people have watched and joked over, where Tony J is a fucking Yeti, and he's accusing humanity of crimes and using the Planeteers as the accusees by proxy, and
the defendants.
Yeah, and he sends them back in time to learn about how humanity's been fucking assholes, and it's just Tony J as a Yeti, and also the jury is just all near extinct animals, and
right.
Tony J as a Yeti. I want to reinforce that Tony J is a fucking Yeti. And
let's not also forget episodes about gang violence and AIDS.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There's episodes about solving the troubles. And also the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
One of those has been resolved. The other one has not.
They're the same episode. That's the issue.
That's the issue.
Oh, God.
That's one we need to watch with you, Neeksy. That'd be good.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I said, I definitely want to come back to this again someday. So definitely, I think this is a show I'd recommend just because there's moments of just really good animation and then just not. I mean, I would say compared to some of the stuff of the same era, it's better animated than some.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
I'm comparing to, you have to remember, think back to some of these shows from that time period. Oh my God.
I still disagree because it has bits, moments where it's well animated.
That's what I mean.
Like little flashes, but everything else is actually a degree worse, I think, than everything else. Like the shark episode, just folks, just watch that episode and look what sharks look like in it. They're just like they're amorphous horror sea creatures. Like nothing makes any sense about how they're depicted.
It's like, yeah, picture a shark. You have pictured a better shark.
Like
I guess because I'm comparing this in my head to G.I. Joe, and I go, no, this is better
G.I.
drawn
Joe
than
had
G.I.
a pretty decent budget at times.
Yeah, but
Yeah, when it
generally
wasn't
didn't.
fucking what the hell are the names? Akon or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's same. Isn't like the same production studio? In fact, produced G.I. Joe has produced this.
No.
No, I think no. This is Deke.
What is like the same production like studio?
Transformers had the same production things.
It's G.I. Joe.
No, I'm kind of sworn like there's specific episodes here that were produced.
What?
by...
Yeah, there are some episodes that look like they're just done by a different studio. Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
give you
but I'm talking about just of the episodes I've seen. I go compared to some of the stuff I had seen from the same time
I mean,
period, like
keep in
Gem
mind-
and the holograms. Again, I'm thinking about that overall time period.
Yeah.
You have to realize how bad the standards were
Sure.
Yeah,
in
they
that
were.
time period. Is what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is good. I'm saying it's more competent than some of the other shows I have seen in that era.
Yeah. Also,
And the intro itself, I definitely suggest people watching the original intro because that actually has really good animation,
Sure.
like really genuinely like holy shit, and some just really interesting ideas on how they presented certain things, and just really well done. And the way the character designs and faces look a lot better in that intro.
Also,
too.
I want to point out that a lot of the actual like conflicts in the intro are more interesting than the conflicts in like the actual episodes. Like that shot of like the actual like visuals in it are so much more interesting in the sense of like there's a shot of like Dr. Blight turning a forest into like just like paper, like just papering it on the spot, and that is
Yeah.
really visually interesting. But that'd be fucking hell to animate like actually live in like an actual television episode of this show. But for the intro, it looks
So
really interesting.
So like very few cartoons are animated live. It's a real strain on the animators.
Well,
On the
you
animators,
know,
yes.
you know what I mean. You know what I mean, motherfucker.
Yes, we know
Ah.
what you mean. We just chose to not interpret it right.
You dicks.
So anyway, I think we're running a bit long on this one, but it's I definitely want to come back to it again. I'd recommend it. I think it's interesting in a lot of different ways. I'm not advertising this as a genuinely good
no,
show.
it's
but
recommended as a train wreck.
yes, but there's interesting elements within it.
Yes.
Like there's something with the concept that I think could have been done right, but I don't. It
Oh, just wait.
coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Don't
it's
worry.
not-
Every couple years, this keeps creeping up. They're gonna reboot this shit.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
Every couple years, it comes up in the news.
I want to hear what Ted Turner's original idea behind this is, and like I want to be a fly in the wall in that pitch meeting because I bet it was hysterical.
Oh, I bet.
I bet it was hysterical. Like Ted Turner is like, why don't we do a nature show? And he's sitting on his bison. It's great.
It's a superhero that saves the environment or something. His name is Captain Planet, but that's dumb. You guys come up with a better name when I get back.
It's like, what if it was like, I don't know, not this, but what if like all these kids had rings? I'm not saying that, but something like
Because
that.
that would be dumb. Like that's stupid.
And they could call themselves like Planeteers, but not Planeteers, but something like Planeteers. I'm not saying to use Planeteers, but something like it.
That's exactly how it was. You don't need to be that fly on the wall, Zorak. You already know how it happens.
You know how I know? I'm Ted Turner.
My God.
Shit. All right. Well, it's good to end on a cliffhanger. So you can write us anytime at adthepodcast@gmail.com. You could find us on Twitter. I am at RYMagnuson.
I'm at ASA Zorak.
Matt, whatever my name is. CHOROCOJO.
Yes,
Lot of
That's
O's.
right.
and you should,
And
folks, you should
you have
also
something to
check out.
plug?
You guys should also check out Red's website that he has, where he does this cool ass art project. It's arazenkar.com,
Yes.
which is
Link that in the thing.
ARAZAR. No, sorry.
Nope, you fucked
I
it
fucked
up.
up. I fucked up.
You fucked up. You
oh
ruined
God,
it.
I fucked up live
You
on air.
ruined it forever.
Oh God.
We'll never be able to do advertising
Ah!
for that, Zorak.
Oh no, I'm so bad. ARAZANCAR.com.
Ah.
did it.
You did it. Check that out. Also check out
So
my YouTube channel and check out Red's YouTube channel. What's
They're
yours?
the same channel, basically.
Yeah, I think yours is Chorocojo San, I believe.
Yeah, because I had the original and I lost it. I figured
But
I couldn't remember the password.
that's why mine is Zorak Goes On. And I think if you just go to my channel, previously mentioned, I think I just have a link to your channel right there on the side.
It's there.
We cross-pollination.
lots of cross-pollination going on.
We do things.
So, next week we will be talking about Hyoka, a anime by Kyoto Animation, and then after that we'll be discussing Triplets of Belleville. So, anyone else got anything left?
Nope.
Call Captain Planet.
Save the planet. The power is yours.
Hack the planet.
Da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Deke!
Very good.
That's how those episodes ended.